Hello, I'm Jack Rickard. This is Electric Vehicle Television, and I'm here today with my compadre and consigliere, El Breno Noto.
Hey, we are, and most Fridays.
And we're kind of doing this Friday thing as regular gig.
kind of like cereal. And I don't mean Frosted Flakes.
After a certain serial number of Fridays, we win.
That's right, we win. Hello, everybody out there, EVtv land.
We purport to bring you each week a video on the topic of electric vehicles. Some days being better than others,
they are.
even on the internet.
Right.
So
you only get what you pay for.
Yeah, get what you pay for. We offer a complete refund to anyone viewing our show who wants their money back.
There you go. All right. Money back guarantee.
Yeah. There you go. Do we have anything going on in the land of electric vehicle gossip and industry news? That's what we like to start off with.
Boy, what would we want to start off with? We have, there's some Tesla stuff we could talk about, but maybe I'll open up. There is some, an email that we have here from North Carolina. That says that this person was advised, TEAA Prez, and this was just Wednesday, that according to an EPA ban of EV conversions under Title 42 USC, and I don't mean the university, I was advised that North Carolina will no longer be letting people register for road use private conversions of electric vehicles. They're basing the decision on this. It was recently forwarded to them by the EPA that says that you can't tamper with fuel sources of OEM vehicles that have certified emission systems.
They don't want you tampering with the restriction on lead-free because of the size of the nozzle.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's technically illegal to tamper with your fuel system, to try to get around the emission systems.
Yeah, imagine that.
Now, here is some people in North Carolina who have decided to interpret that you have tampered with your fuel system.
Yes, you have.
On a car that doesn't have any emissions.
Right.
When you converted it to electric.
Yes, all the foregoing being true. Yes.
I guess I don't have an opinion on that. I would defer to George Carlin
yeah, exactly.
on this matter.
It's more comical. Yes.
That if you take the average intelligence of the average American bureaucrat,
okay,
by mathematical definition, 9/10 of the rest of the population is smarter than that.
Here you go. That's
Actually,
right.
what George says was that half the population was stupider than that.
But times have changed.
But
that was in the 70s.
And when we're talking about bureaucrats in North Carolina, I would say 9/10 are them smarter than they are.
That's right. Man, what a little regulation won't do for you.
It's we're entering a strange phase, and this is kind of odd. In the 80s, they were really into the emissions thing.
Yeah.
And thusly, no messing with your car.
Right, yeah.
Well, it didn't work out for them, and that's basically because America has a long tradition of working on your own car.
Right, tinkering and working on your car.
Tinkering, changing it. And does a V8 engine belong in a Metropolitan?
Depends.
It kind of does.
It does. It depends on who you're.
And basically, what it should depend on is whose Metropolitan are we talking about
that's right,
anyway?
That's right.
If it's yours and your V8, that's what you want. But we can always have appeals to safety and litigation.
If it only saves one child.
If it only saves one child or enriches one lawyer,
that's right.
Then we can simply rewrite reality based on either of those.
Oh, that's right, either one.
And so we've been in this phase kind of from the 90s through now where it was really quite open.
Yeah.
everybody just kind of dropped all the regulatory talk, and you could experiment with your car and try to find a way to get us out of this mess.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Well, now they're starting to close it back up, and we'll talk some more about that.
Yeah, it's kooky.
But in the meantime, I guess in North Carolina you can't register a conversion.
And we have a lot of viewers and people come to the show. We sell a few parts in North Carolina. It's kind of a busy place for us.
I can't imagine. I don't even know what to think about it.
I know, it's absolutely nutty.
It's an assertion that has to collapse under its own weight within days, I think.
You would think. Well, they wouldn't have made it in the first place.
Keep us posted. One of the neat things that happens in publishing, Brian and I were talking about this today. When you start out, you're like racing all over the place, talking to people on the phone and digging stuff up on the internet and trying to get information, gather information about your fairly narrow topic. After about 5 or 6 years, the thing inverts. And I've got like a team of guys who like feed me stuff they find on the web.
That's right, some tidbits out there. Yeah,
and they're getting pretty good at it, actually. Thanks, guys. Sometimes I don't even have time to respond or thank them for.
Just take the stuff and print it out and use it on the show.
And it's
sorry,
sorry,
Gary.
But it is kind of an inversion of the flow of information, where some days I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose.
Yes, that's right.
And we knew about the Iowa test drive thing within a few minutes of the gal who got her test drive canceled.
Right, I know. Got the email with test drive canceled.
It was in my email box.
Yes, I know.
Before this is over, in fact, I'd say probably by the end of next year, you won't be able to put 2 batteries in a weed whip in India without me finding out about it by email.
That's right. Well, no, we know who you are.
Within a few minutes of you doing it.
That's right. They're experimenting over there in Bangalore again.
Yeah, Bangalore. Somebody just fired up a battery-operated weed whipper.
That's right.
So I like that. I like that about that.
Mm-hmm. It's nice. Well, we always have Tesla stuff to talk about.
We usually do talk about Tesla. Are we praising them or spanking them this week?
Well, okay, so here we'll praise them, where it's not their fault, but we did talk about that Iowa roadblock where Tesla was not able to give people test drives. Mm-hmm. I guess they can go to neighboring states. What I didn't realize is you can still buy a Tesla over the internet in Iowa. That's not against the law.
Right.
You just can't test drive it.
You just can't test drive it because that's a dealer-like activity.
It's a dealer-like activity, yeah.
Well, I don't get how they make a connection between a dealer-like activity and being a dealer.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Were they and the customer in the state at the same time?
Yeah, that's right.
Selling the car in a parking lot.
Yeah, that's right. You should be able to sell a car in a parking lot.
Well, I think so.
Yeah, but the cool thing about this time now is that we've been getting a lot of viewers talking to us. Is that one of our viewers and attendees, the serial attendee at EVCon, Nabil Hankey.
Yes, he was quoted in the Des Moines Register, and USA Today apparently picked up the story.
And USA Today picked up the story actually today.
Not a bad quote. What did he say?
Let's see. He said, let's see what Nabil said. He said about more people switching to greener electric vehicles. He said it's all about momentum, and Tesla is a fantastic momentum mover. He said one Tesla can carry more momentum than 10 Nissan Leafs because it's far more impressive and it changes the dialogue. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And their point was that, but the traditional dealers aren't impressed. Apparently,
I've talked about this. It's act of gravity defines. I'm kind of sympathetic. Imagine if you're a dealer, you got a couple $1 million tied up in this thing.
Sure.
You're living the good life. You're 58 years old, and all of a sudden you're a dinosaur. Nobody needs you anymore. And in a period of about 10 or 15 years, the whole thing collapses, and there aren't any dealers.
No, and you can't even do an ad on TV anymore and wear funny things or have animals like Cal Worthington.
Yeah, Cal Worthington. What's going to happen to the man?
Yep, exactly. No
elephant.
elephants.
He was a used car dealer, though.
Well, he ended up then with Dodge and stuff.
Did he?
Started, Worthington Dodge in
Well,
Long Beach.
when I was in San Diego, Cal was a used car man.
That's right, he's a used car man. That's right, Cal.
He was strictly a used lot.
He was working it,
so
man.
he wound up being
He wound up going
big time
dealer. That's right.
Well, good on Cal.
That's
I'm
go
Cal
see Cal.
Worthington,
Go see Cal. Go
this
see
is
Cal.
my dog Spot.
That's right, his dog Spot. And Spot would be all types of different
It
animals.
could be a rhinoceros, a giraffe, an ostrich.
Anything.
So yeah, well, Cal's got a lot of problems, and that's that we don't need him anymore.
Yeah, things are changing.
The middleman is nothing but overhead at this point, and if they are anything else, they would be secure in their position and not need to go into all this obvious tortuous twisting of the law to try to get at Elon Musk.
Exactly, yes.
But they're not secure because they really don't have a value add. They're just a legislated, licensed operator that is obsolete.
Yeah, becoming, it's
And
gonna be ugly.
we don't need them, and they're going away.
Yeah. So that's our Tesla kind of, oh, poor Tesla. The world is against them. We do have a not funny, but an interesting story here. In San Diego, a fella named Peter Ruttman purchased a 2012 Model S Signature at auction for $50,000 and then spent another $8,000 fixing it. Mm-hmm. And his point is that repairing the car is easy. He says dealing with Tesla has been a challenge. This poor guy apparently has been blacklisted all across the country. He can't buy parts for it. Mm-hmm. They've created a situation where he can't go anywhere. He said he needs a Tesla certified mechanic to switch on the car's brain so he'll accept the charge, but Tesla won't do it unless he signs a liability form. And the form also gives Tesla the final say on whether the car is roadworthy. Mm-hmm. So this guy's kind of in an interesting. He bought it from an insurance company, had a salvage title, mm-hmm. which means you could fix it and put it on the road. But he's having some interesting, talk about tortuous.
Tesla claims to be concerned about safety.
Okay.
This is a bunch of bullshit. Hadn't got anything to do with safety. This has to do with control, and we got a basic problem here. If you buy a car from Tesla, by law and by God, it should belong to you. And Tesla's position is that it does not. It belongs to them.
Okay.
The man does not need to have his Tesla's brain activated. First place, it doesn't have a brain.
Have a brain. Neither did the, who was that? The
Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz.
Either. That's right.
That, howsoever, Tesla has actively gone in and shut down the car.
Oh, really? Oh.
Is what's happened.
That's not nice.
And what he wants is for them to shut it back on.
To shut it back on, that's right.
And they decline to do so unless he has it repaired at a Tesla facility.
Okay.
At an expense that is absurd.
Sure, I'm sure, yeah.
And so therein lies a tale. This gets ugly quickly. Our friend Otmar and I have fallen out rather badly about hacking the Tesla.
Yes, yes.
And we have some severe philosophical differences there that I'm not going to get over.
Yeah.
Whatever he does.
Right.
However, he's been cut off too.
Oh, Otmar's been cut off. It makes sense, I guess, after this, yeah.
He can't buy parts from Tesla anymore. And he bought some.
He can't go into the dealership and buy parts? I guess this guy can't either. They said they blacklisted him.
They simply will not sell him parts at any Tesla service center. He takes that as a blacklist, but all the Tesla service centers are owned by the same guy.
That's right, they know, yeah.
So it's not a matter of being blacklisted. He can't buy part, and neither can Otmar. Worse, Tesla is deactivating the cars, and have a way of identifying them on the supercharge network to where if it's a salvage car, they're not going to charge it.
So they won't let you use the supercharge network on for a Tesla.
No, they're modifying your car where it can't use the supercharge network.
Oh.
They're modifying. They're making they're taking an active step to disable a car.
Your ability to charge a supercharge station. Wow.
Yeah, and of course, Otmar's whole concept was to take a Tesla, put it under the VW Vanagon stretch lot, so he could drive it cross country using the charge station.
Yeah, the supercharge network. Sure.
Well. I've got some problems with this, almost to the point of buying a salvage car and filing a $100 million class action suit just because I can.
Jesus, man.
This is a theft and fraud. Tesla has said that if you buy a Tesla Model S, you get free charging for life, and it goes with the car. If you sell the car, it goes with it.
Okay, and because that's a good selling point, keeps the value up.
Now, the car is wrecked. Right. The insurance company totals it.
Yeah.
Because Tesla's too damn expensive to fix.
Right.
And then, but the car loses value because Tesla's taking an active step to disable the car.
Man. Wow.
Not because of what happened in the wreck.
Right.
And has diminished the amount that the insurance company can get in recovery, salvaging the car, and has diminished the value of it to anyone who would buy it.
Sure.
And if they don't know that Tesla is actively working against them while they're trying to repair the car, it's a problem. I have another problem with this.
Okay.
Where did we get started with I'll sell this guy parts and not this guy parts, whether they have a Tesla or not?
Yeah,
didn't we go through this in the 60s in Alabama about some of us can get served at the lunch counter and some of us can't? Have we got a new form of technologically disruptive racism going on here?
We've got some techno-apartheid.
Right. You don't have to rent an apartment to me because I'm fat. What's that?
What's next?
And so the concept of requiring a VIN and only selling parts to people that have a car that you authorize is absurd. And it has nothing to do with training and safety. It has to do with the right you should have to repair your car. And we need a right to repair a bill. So you've got Otmar and this guy both being outmaneuvered by Tesla, trying to control cars that, by the way, Mr. Musk, you no longer own the motherfucker.
Sold it. That's it.
You sold it. That's what the 107 grand was for. You don't own it anymore. If you recall, I went through the same thing with a Smart. Bought it without a battery.
That's right, without the battery pack.
Found out that for this $28,500 Smart, they wanted a $30,000 for the battery.
That's
it
crazy.
wasn't. They wouldn't make it available to me, so I can't really squall about that.
That's right. Just pony up.
They didn't actually phone the car and tell it not to drive me around.
Right.
At least they didn't do that. But the pricing is a bit discriminatory.
It is. It's a little go-away price.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I sent them a letter. Well, I sent the letter to a Mark Webster. He is the general manager of Smart USA, which is actually a division of Mercedes-Benz.
Mercedes, sure, in the U.S., yes.
Mercedes-Benz in Montvale, New Jersey. And he actually called me.
Oh, really?
During EVCon.
Okay.
And explained to the best of his knowledge why they didn't make this battery available. And of course, it was all for my protection.
And protect you from yourself, sure. Anything can happen.
It made no sense. And it was a really strange phone conversation because after he delivered it, I just sort of let it hang for a couple of seconds. And I asked him, I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did."
It's sunk in for me too.
And I knew, and I knew he knew
That's right.
he knew that I knew that this was kind of bogus. But I said, "Well, that's your position. Okay, I'll report it." And away we go. But he said, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't do more for you." And I said, "Well, you could." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, if I had the CAN message IDs for the battery and the specification for the data that they provide the car, I could build my own battery." We build batteries around here all the time.
Sure.
And I could build my own battery and drive the car away.
Yeah.
And he said, CAN messages? Excuse me, I'm not really an engineer. I said, I would have never guessed that from our earlier conversation. You sound so competent. That but it is a kind of an esoteric topic. So CAN is a controller area network. It's the way all the pieces in the car communicate with each other. And the battery makes a message and tells the car how much voltage it's got and how much current it's putting out and what its level of charge is. He says, that makes sense. I said, well, if I knew how to make that message and send it to the car, then the car would run and I could use my own battery. He said, well, that doesn't sound like too much to ask. And he asked his assistant, can we get him that information? Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have any objection to that. Sure, let's get your email and we'll do that. I said, well, it's actually on my letter, but it's jack@evtv.me. And yeah, if you could just send me the spec on the protocol that you guys use in the Smart to have the battery talk to the car, I'm good to go.
Sounds like a good plan.
He said, well, I really don't think that's an unreasonable request. We'll get you that. Gladys, can you take care of that? Oh, yes, Mr. B. We'll handle it. And then we got our phone. That was August the 13th or 14th.
Yeah, during the show, yeah.
Would you believe I never did get an email message with that message protocol?
Imagine that.
I was shocked.
I was like, wow.
That I just never did get that information. So I wrote him a letter September 22nd. Mr. Webster, this past July 30th, I wrote you regarding a Smart for 2 EV we had purchased, which did not have a battery installed in the car. Its battery pack had been road damaged and was removed from the car. We purchased the car and I was trying to obtain a battery pack for it. You did provide the courtesy of a telephone call on August 13th explaining your company's policy regarding batteries. It remains a bit incredible that the $30,000 battery price quite exceeded the car itself, but we passed it on to our EVtv viewers who, by all accounts, really got a big kick out of it.
I bet they did. I could see the laughter through the lens.
While your position on the battery was astoundingly inept, you did agree during that call to provide the CAN bus data specification for the messages the battery provides the car to operate. Using this specification, we would then be able to build our own battery and at least drive the car. Your assistants noted my email address and promised to contact me by email soonest regarding this specification.
Okay.
I've never heard a further word. I guess verbal agreements are simply no longer worth the paper they're printed on.
Or the words that are uttered. That's right.
I'm sure you are familiar with Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill. She, of course, chairs the Senate subcommittee overseeing the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. She's had a bit of a position since the hearings on the GM ignition switch recall, or lack thereof, and has made some hay taking the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and Mr. David Friedman, the Deputy Administrator, to task. I rather believe electric cars are an important component in our energy future, and I was delighted to learn that she does too. But some of the OEM support practices, particularly with so-called compliance cars, would seem to leave a bad taste among the poor hapless yucks who purchase these electric cars. As this becomes more widely known, it threatens to diminish the sale of electric vehicles. Here I am with a 1-year-old electric car and no battery.
Yeah, no.
Now, how does that work?
Yeah, that's right.
And Mercedes-Benz apparently could care less, with a replacement battery that is more expensive than the car, and right down to agreeing to provide some basic and totally cost-free digital information on how it works so someone else can fix it, but then kind of rethinking that whole deal.
Yeah, right.
At this point, I think it would bring a very good public light on these issues, and admittedly no small limelight on EVtv, which was always a good thing.
Sure, we like it.
To appear at a Senate hearing on this topic kind of folded into the entire right to repair discussion. You, me, Claire, Elon, some NHTSA guys, you know, get the gang together and knock back a few margaritas down in Georgetown after a long day in the Senate chambers. Then perhaps play with some high voltage and go for a drive. Good times.
There you go.
Let's see. I can be the hero. Miss McCaskill could play the heroine.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess the NHTSA guys could scramble around trying to get back in the good graces of the Senate. And you, well, you, of course, get to choose your role. And I'm sure it'll be a very good one and performed exceedingly well.
That's right.
What do you think? No responses yet. We did at one time have laws requiring vehicle manufacturers to provide parts.
Yes.
And technical information to repair shops.
Yes.
And they were required to produce and procure parts for their cars for a minimum period of 10 years.
I think it was, yes. Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
This has apparently gone away somewhere along the line.
When did that happen?
Well, it's, you know, like, do you remember there was one day everybody had like shaving cream that was mentholated.
Yes. Yes.
And I used menthol shaving cream for many years. And then one day it all disappeared. There is no mentholated shaving cream in the United States today. You have to order it in from Italy.
That's right. It's got to be.
My daughter actually makes mine now. Got tea berry in it. Spearmint.
There you go. Nice. Nice.
Eucalyptus oil.
Little jojoba.
I probably need a shave right now.
Making a beard grow, just thinking about it.
Cocoa butter.
That's right.
But you can't buy mentholated shaving cream. This is like they sneak in these things. There are laws now with Google and Yahoo that Yahoo has brought out that not only do they have to provide the government information about you and your email and your online
browsing
activities,
habits,
but they're mentioning to you that they have done so is illegal.
Oh, really?
And punishable by $250,000 a day fine.
Wow. How does that make the Information Freedom Act?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
They cannot reveal to you
that they have to give up the information.
They have to give up the information to the government.
Wow.
No one knows why there's no mentholated shave cream. Right. And the guys making it are probably precluded by statute from revealing that it's the government that made them quit making it.
Made them do it.
But they all quit making it at the same time.
Something about the menthol.
You know what menthol is?
Eucalyptus, right? Or kind of
peppermint.
Peppermint. Okay. Yeah.
It's peppermint oil. What?
You know, peppermint oil could be a problem.
What are they saving me from?
I have heard about people having peppermint oil addictions and
Is
they're
that right?
losing their jobs.
I may have been slightly addicted because I was furiously trying to find them in department stores nationwide, Florida, Colorado, Missouri,
Anywhere you
searching
travel.
the land from insulated shaving cream.
Going up the shaving
They
aisle
even
anywhere.
had shaving cream cans that had the same blue and white or green and
Yeah,
white.
right, so you know.
But then if you read the label, it was aloe.
Oh, they
Who
replaced it
needs
with
aloe? I need menthol.
That's right.
Aloe doesn't make anything tingle.
No, we can get you a menthol beer, or is that outlawed?
Yeah, right, probably so. So
No more menthol cigarettes.
anyway,
Jeez.
I'm making light, but we are in a war, and we have vehicle manufacturers who truly believe they own and should be able to control the vehicle after they have sold it to you. That is a fantastic notion, a fantastically stupid one, and not even in their best interest do you realize what you're saying.
Yeah, that's craziness.
You're responsible for it forever. GM is not in trouble over the ignition switch recall because of what people did with the ignition switch. They're responsible because they knew internally that it caused wrecks that killed people, and for their own commercial interests, did not reveal it and did not deal with it because it would be expensive.
It would be expensive, yes.
There's no safety issue, Elon. Did you read Tesla's response to the gentleman's assertions? It's kind of interesting. Damning more in what they admit than in what they deny.
Spokesperson, okay, a spokesperson for Tesla responded to the assertions Thursday in a written statement.
Here it is.
Okay, it says, it is probably something the state regulators haven't caught up on yet, but he shouldn't have bought it to begin with unless he had the technical know-how himself.
Oh, no, that's a guy with a plug-in clown.
Oh, okay.
And then here's
Vice President Communication. Here we
is,
go. Here we go. Simon Sproul, he's the VP of Communications for Tesla, issued the following statement on San Diego Channel 6 on Thursday. Safety is Tesla's top priority and is a principle on which we refuse to compromise under any circumstance. Mr. Ruttman purchased a vehicle on the salvage market that had been substantially damaged in a serious accident. We have strong concerns about this car being safe for the road, but we have been prevented from inspecting the vehicle because Mr. Ruttman refused to sign an inspection authorization form. Signs the papers, Mr. Ruttman. That form clearly states that in order for us to support the vehicle on an ongoing basis, we need to ensure the repairs meet minimum safety standards. Regardless of whether or not the car passed the inspection, Mr. Ruttman would have been free to decide where to conduct any additional repairs and to leave with his vehicle. There was never any threat to take away his vehicle at the inspection or any time thereafter, and there is nothing in the authorization form that states or implies that we would do so. Additionally, Mr. Ruttman opted to have his vehicle repaired by a non-Tesla affiliated facility. We work with a network of authorized independent repair facilities to ensure our safety standards are met. It is also worth noting that Mr. Ruttman is not on any blacklist for purchasing Tesla parts. While we do sell certain parts over the counter, we do not sell any parts that require specific training to install. This is a policy that is common among automakers and is placed to protect customers from the risk of repairs not meeting our safety standards.
It is becoming common, and that's not its purpose. It's to keep anyone from repairing them, and it should be made illegal. Tesla has no position on the safety of the car other than when they build it.
Sure, they need
And
a safe car.
once it leaves, and I have purchased it, it is completely within my right and purview to remove the front half of the car and install a goddamn steam calliope if I want.
Now, that might void your warranty.
It might. And understand that in no case here are we talking about anyone presenting a warranty claim to Tesla.
No, this is not. No, this is not about warranties at all.
This is not a warranty issue at all.
No, not at all.
We're not talking anything about warranties. And there are agencies in the government who are tasked as we see in North Carolina.
Yes, that's right.
With licensing vehicles. And here in Missouri, when we convert a car, we often have to take it to be inspected by the State Highway Patrol. They make sure that the brakes work and the steering works as originally designed. It's not as rigorous as what goes on in Europe, but it's you have to have essentially basically a safe car in order for it to be licensed to be used on the road. Sure. And that is none of Tesla's affair or doing.
No.
And should not be. And so there are protections from people turning cars into projectiles and missiles and endangering the rest of the population. Tesla's not in charge of that. Once Tesla's sold the damn car, if I make modifications and they do not want to, and they should make this rationalization based on what it does to the cost of making warranty repairs. If it has nothing to do, if I installed 3 cup holders and it has no bearing on the warranty repair, then they should go ahead and make the warranty repairs. But they're perfectly, if the car's been so customized that they're unable to make warranty repairs, like when I took my Cadillac Escalade in for its recall and they couldn't find the engine to put the new mass airflow thing on it. He said, "You're out of warranty."
That's right.
Well, you don't have to do this. I waved the paper at him and said, "Sorry, pardon. This is not under warranty. This is under recall."
Yeah.
He looks at me, "Oh, well, how are we supposed to do that? I don't even know where it is." I said, "Just give it to me. I'll take it home."
I'll take it.
And he gave me the part. It turned out to be part of the problem, too, by the way.
It was. That's right. We needed it.
We needed it.
We needed it.
And so...
we'd sold it.
But I was able to get the part. And so I think availability of parts and this thing about, hey, we're not going to sell these parts unless you have a car, I think is technological racism.
Yeah, well, what if I was an
I'm
artist?
going to coin that term, technological racism.
There you go.
If you sell a car, you should have to sell the parts. And
why can't I go buy a brake rotor from anybody just because I like it?
Because I like that rotor. I want to put it on my Metropolitan.
Yeah, or I want to make a coffee table out of it. Right. You know?
I use them to make windmills.
I just wonder what parts Tesla, they said they will sell some parts. And I wonder what those parts are, like T-shirts?
Yeah.
You know that I took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Bad coffee and styrofoam cups.
I took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can't choke you with your own T-shirt. So that's a safety issue.
Anna Kloppenborg's facing some of this with the Jeep CJ5. Let's take a look.
That's right.
Well, hey, EVtv. Here's Anna Kloppenborg with your weekly Amsterdam update. This week, no more boating. Boat shows are over, and Little Red Delta is out on the dry. That means it's car time. We have our Jeep CJ5 that I'm sitting right in front, and we have some updates on the CJ5 conversion. It needed a little time for this project to get going again. Why was that? Well, we had a pre-test done by our RDV, our local road legal organization, the friendly folks from the RDV. And while they were here, they were thoroughly impressed with all the EVtv goodies that we're using to make this Jeep an electric drive. But they couldn't find the VIN number where the VIN number was supposed to be, right here on the frame above the right strut. That meant we had to wait for 3 weeks, count them, 1, 2, 3 weeks, before we could have it properly investigated by their local chapter here in Amsterdam. During that time, you're not allowed to do anything to the car, and also it's not good for the customer, because if that VIN number was not there and they would deem this car not to be original or in some way tampered with, there is just no way further to get this car road legal ever. In that case, they are judge, jury, and executioner, and there is no higher authority. There's no way to recoup on your investment, and you basically write off the car. That meant that for the customer, it was clear that we had to stop all work and all further costs going into this vehicle to make sure that it would have a certain future. Well, last Thursday, it was able to go through this originality testing, the echtheidsonderzoek, the realness. What we call that, echtheidsonderzoek, would be the realness investigation. And it was deemed to be real. The previous owner that our customer bought this CJ5 from was such an enthusiastic, restoration-minded kind of guy that he just putty-filled everything up on the frame and had it completely powder-coated in a candy apple red and then did the chassis in yellow. But actually, the VIN number was still under there. It would have made no sense for this car to have been either a stolen car, or there would have been no real tax incentives on this kind of car at any point in its history to have mated a different top to an older frame, or a newer frame to a newer top, or anything in that sense. This baby's been an old timer for quite a while, being from 1969, and there's would have been really no reason to try and hide or obfuscate or outright lie about the origins of this car. But VIN number has to be where the VIN number has to be, and otherwise our local road legal organization will not take any further look at it as for making it electric and legal on the road. So that part being out of the way and our boat shows being over, we got to work and have some updates for you on making this baby electric. We had another little snafu on our original puck that I showed you a few weeks ago. The puck is intended to then adapt to the flywheel, the clutch setup, and the whole thing slides into the Borg-Warner transmission, the T90 transmission that is in this CJ5. Well, everything fitted rather well, even though it took us the better part of 20-30 minutes of faffing last time to get it in there. But we weren't really making good contact with the pressure plate setup. Our clutch pedal had to go all the way down, and it was already set to maximum leverage before we even made contact with the pressure plate, and thus we weren't really engaging the clutch at all. Well, that meant everything had to come back apart and see what was going on, who had made some what measuring mistakes, and who was going to give what new part to whom. The good part of that being that I was able to film a little piece in more detail showing what the actual adaptation is that we do to the Siemens motor to make this very compact, very robust setup possible. So let's take a look at that. Well, hey guys, today we're going to be putting our Siemens motor back into the CJ5 conversion. Before we do so, hopefully for the last time, I thought I'd do one quick walk around of how we've adapted these motors to make this really tight adapter plate and pressure plate coupling possible. Last time I gave you guys a quick overview of the new short adapter plate and using a puck that then puts the shaft of the motor onto a flywheel and pressure, what do you call that? A clutch setup, we call that in English. But I didn't take off the puck, and I didn't quite show you how the motor had been adapted to fit this setup. So I figured once we have it all apart now, since we needed to have a new part made, a new puck made actually, that would be a good opportunity to show you what in fact we have done to these motors to make this very short, very strong coupling possible. So I'll take you in close and give you a quick look at how we have adapted the Siemens motors to fit this setup. So here you see the original Siemens motor. It has the spline shaft, not involute but exvolute spline shaft that is standard for both these Siemens motors, and the UQM motor has the same spline. And in the Ford Transit Connect, these would hook right up to a Borg-Warner e-gear drive, and in that way be set up for direct drive transmission. Now, to use these motors in a wide range of clutch setups for different gearboxes and to be able to make conversions that way, we had to adapt this motor because in many of our conversions, very specifically the 818 conversion and also to a certain extent our CJ5 conversion, we wouldn't be able to fit the motor properly if we would just simply make an adapter that only rides on the spline, then would come the coupling to the flywheel and clutch setup. That would mean that in the end we have a very, very thick adapter plate need. In many cases, we just would not be able to fit it. The 818, it would mean cutting into the frame, and we're really not allowed to do that and have any hope of getting it road legal here in Europe. And for the CJ5, I'll show you a little later, it would mean that we would extend into the area where the current steering setup is, so that would lead to a whole other nightmare of adapting that and possibly also having difficulty getting it road legal.
Here you can see actually how close the steering gets to the mounting of the motor. Had we had a thicker adapter plate, we would have had to adjust the whole steering setup, and thus making road legal testing more or less impossible. Better to be lucky than to be good, isn't it, Jack?
Anything that we've adapted, we have to show that if we change it from the original, that it then meets new requirements instead of being able to lean onto historical requirements. So anyways, what was done to these motors to make this puck setup possible? Well, here we see the original, and it has the spline part sticking out, and here we have the adapted motor. So basically what was done to the motor is that the front end with the spline was simply cut off, and then the front plate was taken out. This is all done when the rotor is actually out of the motor housing. So the front plate comes off, the accessory plate at the back is loosened, the total rotor can come out. Now, as for adaptations to the front plate, with a finger lathe, this front ring is taken off, and we can see it here on the original. So here's your front ring sitting around the rotor. On the adapted, the front ring is off, exposing the sidewall of the rotor bearing and the housing that the bearing sits in. Now, the seals are all still there and in place, and of course we're having a motor and bell housing of a transmission sitting over this, so it's not like we're introducing the motor to a lot of grime or anything like that. Let's get this camera in a little closer so you can see properly what we're doing here. So the real trick after getting the spline off is that we then open up the rotor to a certain specification that we have on file, and this way it'll allow for the pilot bearing to sit here and adapt to different sizes of pilot ends to transmission shafts. That way you can actually offer support to the transmission shaft, which is often needed, but you can also greatly reduce the depth of coupling that is needed, and that way you really reduce the depth of adapter plate that is needed to get the whole thing together. We've found that the reduction in thickness of adapter plate and coupler actually translate to a lower cost of these two, which offsets the higher cost of adapting the motor to this setup. in the end, it's really not as much about total cost saving. It's more about the strength and quality of the total connection. Plus, it's about getting the whole drivetrain into your vehicle of choice. Once again, we wouldn't have gone this route if it wasn't necessary, but for the 818 and the CJ5, this is the only way to play. So, once you have this set up, what do we then use to mate to our flywheel? Well, we use what here is called a puck. And the puck is simply a ring of metal that is made to fit over the shaft of the Siemens and then to adapt to a bolt pattern for a flywheel that you've specified. Now the puck isn't just a flat ring. It in fact has a back end that will slide all the way over the shaft and can sit against the outer ring of the bearing, which is also riding just in front of the bearing housing. I was asked by Paulo Almeida of the Institute Engenharia de Lisboa if we weren't worried that the pressure from the clutch setup might actually push the puck back and made it ride against the motor face. Well, thankfully we're not, because it has that back end and it won't be able to go in further and thus make the ring go up against the motor plate. The problem we had was that some of our measurements were lost in translation as we were making the puck, and the one that we ended up with, in fact, was not deep enough for us to properly connect to the clutch setup. We were riding so much in front of it, in fact, that all of your clutch pedal was needed just to get in contact, and there was no pedal swing left to put any pressure on the clutch setup, thus making the whole setup basically useless. Well, we were able to find out that our measurements were good, they just hadn't been transmitted properly, and so we got a brand new puck, which is wide enough to encompass the situation for the CJ5. Just as an example, this is the difference between the two. We were about 1 centimeter off on the first one, and now we're fine on number 2. So the puck will slide over the rotor of the adapted Siemens. One extra detail is this big key that is put into the shaft of the Siemens, and we have an allowance here in the puck for it to slide over that. And then we use a double, we call that an imbus, what do you call it, like an Allen key, so a double nut to first one secure it, and the second one to enforce the secured nut. It's a very tight fit, so I'll just hand fit it over the front. If I can get it there. No being the answer. Let me just get a little rubber. So, once she's on, she fits nicely. And she spins nicely. I'll give you a little side view. So this side view will show how closely she rides in front of the adapter plate as compared to what otherwise would be the minimum length of adapter. Once again, if you still have the spline, that means this would be the starting point of your pilot of the transmission shaft, whereas now it can actually ride in the rotor back here and go in there. So we're winning, a good 2-inch of depth, which, Jack has often said you get beat by 1/32 of an inch. Well, 2 inches is an infinite amount of space when it comes to putting a drivetrain in or just being able to forget about it. So that's the part of adapting the motor and the rotor and making the puck. And we'll call Ray in and start putting together this whole system. And we'll end up with a pressure plate clutch setup like we have for the 818. And once we have that, we'll put in the motor to the CJ5 and show you how that goes. Hope this made sense. So there you have it. New puck installed. Raymond put the motor back in, and she is in as snug as a bug in a rug. We hope she'll never have to come out again, because even though she comes in and out under the new battery frame quite well, it is just a bit of work. And we've done it 3 times now. 3 times is good enough for us, okay, guys? So she's staying in, and we'll be fine with that. On the rest of the build, we have made new battery boxes. In the front, we'll be holding 40 CA100FI cells, and in the back, we'll be holding 56 CAFI cells, making a full complement of 96 cells running at about 330 volts nominal, giving more or less full power out of the DMOX setup, and giving us about 30 kilowatt hours for this car. Now, with these gigantic rubber wheels that are made for sandboxing and not so much for high-speed highway driving, it's not like this is going to be some long-range monster. But 30 kilowatt hours should give us a nice day of fun if you're going to be trying to race around the sandbox, and it should give you a decent range around town for what she will mostly be used for. The boxes are made out of stainless steel. The original restorer of this car had a bit of a fetish going on for stainless steel. He raised the car up quite a bit using stainless steel members. He used a lot of what we call tranplaat plating all over the car, using stainless steel little hood fasteners all over the place. So we figured that we would stay in the same theme for this car with a lot of the materials we use. Added reason to this is that since this is the first car that we are having road legal tested by the RDV, and the RDV is really very iffy on the whole electric thing to begin with, the best thing is to go slightly overboard on strength of anything mechanical or anything holding a lot of weight, because as soon as they have the slightest inkling that something is not manufactured or fastened properly, they're going to want all kinds of engineering tests and crumple tests and ridiculous tests just to ensure and prove that everything is snug in there and won't start coming out with the first bump in the road. So we went slightly overboard and used 3 mil thickness of 304 grade RVS, roestvrij style, stainless steel as we call it, and are also going pretty heavy duty on the frame members and fastening it directly to the frame in the front and in the chassis in the back. The RDV also wants you to deliver a schematic or drawing of how the battery boxes are made and fastened to the car. So Ray spent the better part of 2 days learning how to use SketchUp and doing some nice illustrations of how we made these boxes and how they're going to be mounted in the front and the back. And then we have to do a complete statement sheet, 2-page statement sheet, saying how we put the battery back together, how we make sure that high volt is isolated from the frame, and how one cannot simply either drop a tool or get one's fingers in the high volt area without using tools to actually dismantle the top of the box. So we have to do a lot of those statements. And of course, we've submitted our newly printed EMC report on the Siemens DMAC drivetrain that we got from the TUV Rijnland in Lake. All these things together will mean that we can now go ahead and get the car road legal tested on the 27th of October. Big day for us. There is still quite a bit of work to be done on this car, but you know, if we had needed to, we could have finished her in about a week now. I think that having a few extra weeks is going to be good, and we'll get a lot of that extra form and fitment done and make this a really pretty conversion. I think that's about it for us and the CJ5 update for this week. I have all the batteries laid out there in the back, so I'll be merrily discharging them and then doing Celso Manaya's patented bottom balancing technique. Probably taking a bit longer than if Celso was here. Celso, I need you to come over and help us out. We've got a lot of projects, and we could sure use you. I'll feed you. Well, we'll figure something out for the future. But for now, you can all rest assured that here in Amsterdam, we are building, and I hope you guys are building too. I'll see you soon. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Well,
that's a big yellow
he didn't
Jeep.
get wet this week.
No, he didn't get wet. No boating for Anna this week.
A couple of things. They face quite a bit of stuff there, but I would note that several European countries do have right of repair, and you have to provide parts, and you have to provide instruction to independent repair facilities in order to sell the car in that country, which implies, and some have already mentioned, that there may wind up being a scurrilous trade across the Atlantic in Tesla parts that are purchased in Europe and brought in here.
So we'll have gray market Tesla parts from Europe. Oh, man.
From Europe. And the other thing that struck me was his mounting issues. And having missed a measurement and having to have his hub redone. I like how close that coupler runs, but having to pull the rotor and modify the shaft, hollow out the shaft, and then squeeze it from the outside. I guess I'm not on board with that coupler situation.
Okay.
And I think there's certain safety issues there. But it's his damn CJ5 and his Siemens motor, because I've already sold it to him. And if he wants to carve it into a turkey and put a red button on it to tell when it's done in the oven.
That's right. No problemo.
You go, girlfriend. I don't think I'll do that to a Siemens motor, but it's interesting, and we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, great.
The Siemens, it's interesting how things come around in order. We have Damien Maguire in Ireland.
That's right, we love Damien.
And he is working on a BMW 840,
yeah.
And dealing with some of the same issues. Let's have a look.
All right.
Hello folks, time for a quick update on our 840 CI project. On my right here on the bench we can see our first go at mating our Siemens AC motor to the ZF5 HP24 automatic gearbox. And a little bit of fiddling around with the adapter plate, getting things lined up, and that part of it's gone together very well. Very pleased with it indeed. There is a but coming though. There is a there tends to be always a but. The coupler that I made over the past few days is not exactly working out as per plan for me. I did have some video of this, but it's kind of messy, and I don't want this project to be stuff full of video that's just not very nice to watch. So I elected to just leave that out. But suffice it to say, my main problem here stems from the fact that the Siemens motor is supplied with a spline shaft, and spline shafts typically are designed for an application whereby I would have, let's say, a motor and a gearbox, both of which have their own bearings and their own mating surfaces, so that the two shafts simply join up and transmit drive. They're not really designed to have, I suppose, radial loads causing that kind of a motion on them. And as a result of that, even with a tightener bolt pulling that spline back up against the motor, I'm finding that there's a lot of play in the coupler, and it's causing me a run out of a little bit less than 0.1 millimeters on the rotational axis of my flex plate. Now, I went ahead here and I bolted this guy up just to see how it would actually fit, and it fits together very well. Everything works fine. And I will probably do a low RPM spin test on this just to see how it actually feels. But I do believe at this point that I'm going to have to revisit the adapter, which is a little bit of a pain, but not something that we can't handle. It is just one of the potential gotchas with these type of motor that have these spline shafts on them, and particularly when it comes to using an automatic gearbox and keeping the torque converter in there, because the weight of the torque converter naturally places a bending moment onto that spline. And indeed, even if this were a manual gearbox and we had a clutch pack in there, we would probably find a similar problem. Ideally, as kind of ironic in this case, because my general take for manual gearbox conversions is just straight drive in there. I don't have a flywheel or a clutch or anything of that sort, and in this case that would have worked perfectly fine, because I would have my splined motor shaft and my splined input shaft to the gearbox, and it would have been just a case of machine up a piece of stock with the two different ends in it, and it would have just slotted together and just transmitted drive without any radial loads on there. So that's something that we're working on at the minute here. Next video, hopefully I'll have some updates on that, and we will do a spin with our inverter. I've got to get that guy out of mothballs and start setting it up here for some bench testing. Unlike previous projects where when I have had the motor and gearbox built up and spun up on the bench, I'm not just going to throw this straight into the car. Instead, we're going to come up with a frame system here on the bench that will mount the inverter, will mount the hydraulic pump that we're going to need for this project, because the car needs hydraulic pressure both for the power steering and for the brake booster because we have this kind of hydro boost system in there. So we will require a hydraulic pump of some format to do that, and we will discuss that at length in upcoming episodes. But for now, I'm actually quite pleased with how this guy looks. I'm quite pleased with the fact that I can line it all up, that we have enough play in our adapter plate here to get the motor shaft bang on in line with the input shaft to the gearbox. So overall, not at all disappointed with that, but I do just feel that this coupler is going to present me with a few more problems with this system than I had anticipated. Indeed, when we had the small DC motor on here for testing the gearbox controller and getting everything spun up, it worked very well, precisely because I had a big 28mm keyed shaft on that motor, and I could go in there with a big taper lock hub on it, and it had loads of rigidity in there that could actually take it. But the problem is, not only have we a short spline shaft on this Siemens motor, but it's quite a small diameter shaft also. I think the major diameter on the splines is only 25mm. So yeah, we got some challenges here, and we'll get through them. So I'm going to sign off at this, not going to ramble on, but we'll get this guy spinning, and we'll start building up our drive system before we get it into the car. And yeah, it's going to be a ball of fun, folks. So as always, thanks for watching, stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe.
My man.
He's got some issues this week. Just the one shot video there from Damien. Yeah, that's okay.
Damien,
some
you're
weeks are
mostly
better than
telling
others.
us about it. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how did you do this adapter plate? I don't remember seeing that.
No.
And then the coupler that you didn't like. Maybe I would like it. Let me have a peek. And then we can't wait to see how you finally resolve it.
Oh, absolutely, Damien. Yeah.
So that's going to be very interesting. Build a Siemens motor with an automatic transmission.
Yes.
And his own inverter based on the German open source control board. It's not an Arduino board.
Okay, different, huh?
It's another board.
Okay.
But it's very good. We did get in our first order 50 of our dual channel.
We did.
CAN bus board. I'm working on a little booklet for it right now as we speak, and we're going to make that available in the web store, but we have them in stock now. We got our first 50. I have tested a couple of them on some charger issues, and they work extremely well.
Ah, cool. Good deal.
The reason they work extremely well is not because it's that great a board. They work extremely well because Colin Kidder, one of our software guys involved in the JevQ, has done a library and has kind of honed it, and recently made some changes to it, sort of at my behest, but
Okay.
that just absolutely make it stunning, with some callback interrupt routines where you can set filters for certain CAN messages, and you can indicate routines in your program,
Okay,
functions,
sure.
methods in your C++ program, that if it receives this message, that's routed to this method. And if it receives another message ID, it's routed to this other method. And you can set up a series of filters very simply.
Oh.
It makes perfect sense. It's easy to program. And base it on the message IDs, methods that are in your program. Outside the Arduino program loop, outside of the operation of the program, if the hardware receives a message, it triggers a hardware interrupt to the board.
Okay. Yeah.
And this allows it to then filter the message IDs and route them to different routines that do not get called and do not operate until such a message
Until
comes
they
in.
get the message. Yeah, that's nice.
And so I've written a couple of things. One we also offer a thing from LIM that is a current, Hall effect current sensor that's CAN operated. I've sold none of them to our EV guys, and we sold quite a few to Europe.
Yeah, we
where
did.
the engineers over there are desperate for these things. They can't get them, and they love them.
Yeah.
So we're doing quite kind of a trade because apparently nobody's stocking these things. They're expensive, but not that expensive.
Right.
$125 or something. But I did a little routine to actually pull this board, or it sends out messages, and this just uses an interrupt to run that little routine that processes what it's sending.
That's cool.
Telling me what current is. So nothing happens. The program really does nothing until it receives a message.
Gets something to
and
do.
then it does the right thing the first time. Colin did this library, and it's actually, you know, if you look through the libraries for things done on Arduinos, I think it's probably the best one I've ever seen do anything.
Wow. Way to go, Colin.
And it's just a gorgeous piece of code. I have difficulty following it and telling what he's doing inside of it, but I have no difficulty in mastering the calls to it to set this up from my program, and it's just stunning what it does. So we do have those in. How did I get off on that? Oh, Damien's
his German
open source inverter, and we're following that with intense interest. What have we been doing here?
Let's see, what have we been doing here? We did some, we put one of the UQMs together with the VW adapter and put all the stuff on it and weighed it. And
we've been working on the green thing a little bit. Let's take a look.
Yeah. All right, so we're here with our UQM motor. Got it on our stand. You guys did see Jesse dry fitted the whole thing last week and showed you that it actually fit. That was that's a feat in itself. This time we're going to have a shorter motor and one where we can close the deck lid without having to take any pieces out of this the green thing. So we're kind of happy about that. So what we're going to do is we have gotten the flywheel and pressure plate back from Rimco in California, who seems to be one of the only people that can balance dynamically a VW flywheel and pressure plate anymore. But they've been doing it about 30 years, so I guess why not? A little shipping time and things, it's about $90 to have it done, but it's definitely well worth it. So we're going to go ahead and build this thing up again, this time torquing everything down, Loctiting it, and this won't be a dress rehearsal. And then we'll show you the plate for the UQM and the inverter going on the adapter plate here. And now that you've seen it in the car. So let's go ahead and
let's slap some parts on it?
Let's slap some parts on it.
Okay. Which side of these are we marking up? No, it doesn't matter.
I don't think, I think we're good. This is a 4-dowel flywheel, but these flanges, when they're made, we do them for a 8-dowel flywheel if you so desire. There are a lot of people out there that in VW land anyway that prefer 8 dowels. If you do use an 8-dowel flywheel, one of the pins will be offset, and you have to make sure you always line that one up properly. Otherwise, you just have a blast.
See, this is a little long.
Let me get my glasses here and take
I think
a
we
look.
did mark it. I think we marked it one way. That's a little off. There. Unless I just don't have pushed on all the way.
Let's go ahead and do a little bit of this by hand anyway. Oh, that's going on a lot better. This one does seem a little tight. Let's go ahead and draw this down. Let me get out of the way there. And we'll have get our flywheel locked, but there we go. And we'll just draw that up. These do come in handy when you're putting your flywheel on. Here we had taken this off, I think the flywheel, this ring for the starter, we had taken the ring gear off. That's going on pretty straight because this is staying nice and loose. And we're going to go ahead and spin this for a sec, Jess. Let's just take a look and make sure that we're going on good. But that's a one indication that you're going on there fairly straight is if your flywheel lock will come off, that you don't have it. I think that's looking pretty good, huh?
Yeah, what do you think? You all right?
Yeah, that's a fairly good indication if your flywheel lock comes off that you're going on there straight. Yeah. Let's take a look and go ahead and yeah, that looks nice.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go ahead and back this bolt off though, and let's just make sure that we're seated up against it properly.
El Bando Noto.
Yeah, because we're going to have to torque. We're going to have to torque this down, and we might just want to do it with the impact too.
Give it a little tappy tap.
Yeah, that's fine. There we go. Oh, got my finger in there. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull
I
that.
lost mine.
That's right. Go ahead and pull that off. And let's make sure we're good before we torque it. There we go. So like we were saying, if you want to use an 8-dowel pin, that's fine, but always make sure that you get that one that's eccentric. We also like to use the big washers here that cover all dowel pins because you don't want them coming flying out. Oh yeah, you're looking nice.
You look pretty damn good in there.
Yep, looking good. Okay, let's go ahead and bolt that. Let's go ahead and bolt that in there, and you're probably going to need your impact.
You want to use impact?
Yeah, because I don't think we're going to be able to get enough. I don't think we're going to be able to get enough torque on this.
Maybe we can try it real quick.
Okay.
See, might be able to hold it down. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a 3/8 though.
Oh, what did we do with our adapter? I guess we didn't set it out on the table for ourselves, did we?
What were you looking for?
That 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter.
It's probably on this cart.
Yeah, I just seen the thing.
There it is. We'll use a little more lever action, huh? And this is only set at about 18 pounds. You're gonna have to crank that thing all the way up.
What are we going to, 90?
Anything you can get.
Anything you can get?
Yep. There should be no stop on the way up. I think going on the way down. And then we'll show you too, they've got marks here on the flywheel that'll line up with the pressure plate, and that's how we know where to put all this. They also punch it so that...
How about 80? What do you think?
Okay, let's go ahead and see what kind of leverage you can get on that bad boy before we start lifting it off the...
Let's see if we can't turn it down. Oh, there's 80.
That's probably about it on that wrench, huh?
Yeah, this one here doesn't go quite right.
Okay.
Might get a little more out of it, probably like 85 or so.
All right, got that on, and our flywheel lock comes off nice and easy. Of course, there's somebody banging on. Oh, is that your buddy?
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead and let him in the front door. All right. So anyway, that's in. Let me show you the next step here. We got our night shift coming in. So we use the pilot tool here. We'll go ahead and drop that in now that the gland nut is in. And this does say, you'll notice on this it has the big flange here, plus it does say TM side, and that means transmission. So when you put this in, you want to put it on the transmission side. If you take a look here at the pressure plate, this was also balanced, is they've got a lot of the machinist die on it. So we kind of know, he put it on here too, but he's also got a punch mark right here and a couple of punch marks here on the flywheel. So if we, for some reason, had lost the die, then we would be able to figure out how this thing goes together. But Jesse's going to need to get the Loctite and our the bolts that are actually made specially for mounting the pressure plate to the flywheel, and we're just going to get those kind of on by hand. Put one over. There we go. Because we're going to want to reset that torque wrench back down to 18 pounds. Did that one start in there okay? Oh, yeah. Back down to 18 pounds, and then we will do that sequence that you've seen us do quite a bit, which is to, in kind of a star pattern, and I'm just going to snug these up enough to where they're just touching the pressure plate. And then we'll recalibrate the torque wrench, and we will bring these down and be nice and centered. Have our Exidy super disc in there, and there we go. Recalibrate that flywheel, and while you're doing this, you're always leaving this centering tool in. That way the splines will line up when you put this on the transmission. So this is a, $4 or $5 part. The flywheel, the clutch disc centering tool, but it's well worth it because it lines up with the splines in the gland nut, which has also your needle bearings that the transmission input shaft rides in. So I guess you can kind of start to snug those down. You want to do them in the little star pattern? I guess we can leave this on. I guess that would make life a little easier, huh?
Yeah, it won't rotate too much.
Except I'm having a hard time getting it. There we go. Tool for every job.
Hammer.
Sometimes hammer. So he's just got in a star pattern, bring this down. So basically, crisscrossing, because we want to make sure that pressure plate doesn't get bound up, because it fits very, very snugly within the diameter of the machine surface of the flywheel. So we just keep doing this and just bringing it down, and you'll just feel it start to. You'll just feel it like like your wrist has a little torque wrench that it just gets loose and tight. But we kind of like this setup. We're using the Kennedy, a 2,600 pound pressure plate, and then the Exidy super disc. Really easy VW stuff to find, and not really that expensive. I don't remember what that setup is, but there may be $100 and some bucks. Not too bad for that pressure plate and disc setup. And then he'll start to feel where they're kind of going down. And then all of a sudden you'll go to one and you'll feel that it's loose. And then you just keep dragging that down. We'll probably use the torque wrench here pretty soon, because 18 pounds is not much torque.
It ain't much, and they usually end up going over.
Yeah, it's 18 pounds is not much. Yep. So we have put on the blue, I think that's a medium
Yeah, it's a medium.
thread locker, and that's enough. And that's a lot of times why once you Loctite these bolts on, the pressure plate bolts, you don't use them again because usually you've gummed up the threads. And again, for a few dollars for 6 bolts that you know are going to be holding your electric vehicle together here. The driveline, I would go ahead and buy them. We keep a couple packs of them on hand. So now we'll see how good Jesse's wrist is as a torque wrench.
Too damn much.
Yeah, no, probably too much. Yeah.
Every time.
Huh? Not bad.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and
Kept it.
go ahead and click it. Yeah. That one can wait. Apparently.
And do like this bottom one, maybe too. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just drag that thing down there. We're just being cautious. We try to set this up where, there we go, there's our first click. Well, you wouldn't be looking at Jesse's back, but sorry. Some days are better than others, huh?
Some days.
There we go, found a loose one down there, huh? And now we're just going around one more time just to make sure we didn't miss any. So it's funny how loose bolts will cause vibration. In the Ghia we found
A lot.
we found a lot of vibration. So because we had the top two bolts were loose, and that was a good indication that that's not a dial indicator, but being able to take that off without fighting it is a pretty good indication that we got it. Then what you want to do is extract your pilot tool there. And that is about as much of excitement as we can demonstrate to you on the flywheel pressure plate. Also, the motor does spin. We wanted to make sure that there was no tightness, even though it's a permanent magnet motor. You know, you can kind of feel not the magnets, but it does spin fairly freely. Want to make sure our bearings weren't binding or anything.
Yep.
So that is on. What else exciting would we want to show?
And we got these ugly barbs on the side of our motor.
Yeah, you know, we do ship both the motor and the inverter, and this is how we get them with these barbed fittings. We kind of prefer AN fittings. Because they just don't leak. That's just how we roll here at EVtv. You know, we have had to use some hose barbs if there just isn't a place where we can get an AN fitting. There's just a weird size of like the pumps, some of those things.
Pumps?
Yeah, they just don't. So this is, there they go. An AN fitting, actually both sides of this fitting is AN, and this is a AN.
That's an AN8 O-ring to an AN8 male.
AN8 male. So that goes in here. These are available or will be available in the EVtv store. But this is not an MPT thread. Don't ever get it in your head that it is. This is, it might look like it, but this is an AN fitting. And then that allows us to use our hose ends in the AN8. You know, we have 45s, they come in 90s, they come in straights, and then you can go ahead and put those right directly on there, and you can really have a leak-free system here using the AN fittings. Also, and we'll just talk about it for a second, here in the inverter, we have the same kind of setup. We have AN O-ring to our AN8, but it's a 10.
That's an AN10 O-ring to an AN8 male fitting.
And the same thing, the barb fitting comes with it, and the AN10 O-ring to AN8 male fitting go right in there. And again, that really gives you a snug, secure, and most importantly, as far as we're concerned, leak-free, but also kind of pretty. These are much nicer looking fittings for nothing else, if just for show.
Yeah, for sure.
Than using hose clamps and things. But again, sometimes you have to use them, or some of you guys might prefer to use the barb fittings, and that's what comes, and I believe these probably are 3/4 hose, huh?
I think it's around that.
Yeah, it's probably a 3/4.
5/8 or 3/4.
Okay, so that's what we've got there. So I think Jesse wants to show you now the plate, and this is the plate that allows us to mount the
inverter.
The Coda inverter onto the adapter plate here.
It's nice and almost square. 16 by 17, I think.
Yeah, I think the dimensions of this are 16 by 17.
Yeah.
It's a nice sized inverter.
Yeah, it's pretty hefty too. That thing weighs like 70 freaking pounds.
It's about 70 pounds.
It's just big enough it won't fit anywhere in our damn car.
Yeah, so we've got it right on top of the motor.
Right on top of our motor, which I guess is a good spot for it.
And we've got these countersunk
Correct.
screws here, and that's cool.
And we've mounted it directly to the top of our adapter plate, and then just put like an angle iron on the back of our UQM. And actually, the UQM has 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of different mounting
screw
holes
back there, so we just took advantage of them.
And we've got some little Allen keys, and that's kind of how this goes together.
Yep, yep.
Oh, here. Good, pretty precision fit. I like it.
It is.
So we'll show them this side, which you can't see a whole heck of a lot, but this is the side that would be pointing out toward the deck lid. You'd be looking at it from this side. Danger high voltage is actually level.
Yeah,
and you can read it. And on the other side, we've got the flywheel and our clutch assembly mounted. It probably makes some sparks. It's pretty cool. So anyway, there you go. What do you think, Jess? Have we done it?
I think we're done.
And didn't donate too much flesh or blood to the cause?
Not too much.
Not too much. All right.
Making electric boats isn't just making boats cleaner, it's making boats better. Being out in an electric boat means you can enjoy the environment you're in. You are so much more immersed in the sound and the experience of the aquatic life, of the water, of the wind, than you would otherwise be. And it really gives you a new level of understanding and enjoyment of that generally beautiful nature area you've gone into to enjoy yourself. What an electric motor does is that it gives you all this power in a vibrationless, soundless way. A well thought out, well designed system has 100% of the torque available all the time. You don't have to build up to it, you have it. So when you pump the throttle, you are out there and your whole shot is amazing. It takes your center of gravity right out from under you, and it gives people that what they call the EV grin. You just start laughing, you can't help it. You're so conditioned to think that you first need vibration, then need noise, and then you start going somewhere. And in this case, your center of gravity just shoots right out from under you. And it's a wonderful feeling. You can still talk to each other. You're hearing the sound of the water and the wind and the waves instead of just hearing engine noise and vibrations. And it gives you really a chance to be in tune with that nature that you're actually out there to enjoy. Plus, not having to visit the pump is actually a great thing. Your battery will eat electricity from any source that you provide. I mean, who loves sitting around on your knees with a jerry can? We have better control over the boat. We have a better experience while we're out driving. Plus, we also have the knowledge that we're part of new technology. It is just way cool. Our mission is to make beautiful, fast, and fun electric boats. There's nothing more fun than taking these new technological developments and putting them into classic designs and having people shoot away with a big smile and an EV grin.
So what we're going to do is we're going to weigh all of this mess. We're going to do the inverter, and we'll make sure we get this on there, the little plate, because it does weigh something. And let's go ahead and I'll get out of the way, Jess. You okay to pop that on there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this does have the AN fittings on that. Go ahead and, yeah, don't give up any, just throw that anywhere on there. So we've got 61.7 pounds for the inverter setup. And let's go ahead now, we'll do the motor. You want to, yeah, I might as well give him a hand. Got shop help, got the day crew and a night crew here now.
Yeah, we're overlapping.
Okay, so we got 61.7 pounds on the inverter, and let's see what we've got at this point with the motor and the pressure plate, the flywheel, the mounting plate, the disc, everything. So we got a 184.5, probably, and what do we have? 60 what?
61.7.
All right, 61.7 and 184.5. So 246.2.
Heavy.
That seems to be what we've got. And that's what the nuns told me. Is carry the one. So 246.2 pounds total. So let's go ahead and pop this back up on here, and we'll show you the what it all kind of is going to look like with the inverter on top and the phase connections and just everything bolted together. So I'll let you guys kind of do that for the time being. I'll just stand here and be set candy, I guess. I'll just talk a lot.
Your side goes to the back.
Yeah, and there is a, yep. So this is the transmission side, is right here, yep. And there we go. We've got some bolts to bolt this thing up.
Yeah, the shorter ones here.
That's a little more stable, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll use flat washers on top, and then we'll use Nord locks from underneath, and no washers with the Nord locks. You want the Nord locks to bite into the surface of the of both the nut and the mounting surface. So you don't use any flat washers on. We won't use any flat washers on the underside with Nord locks. Just kind of step out of the way and let you guys go ahead. I guess Jesse's gonna stay in, that's fine. Yep, there you go. We can start to get the phase connections. It's got a little place to locate it in there. Tuesday afternoon at EVtv. Is it Tuesday?
I don't know what the hell day it is. I'm lost.
Yeah, there you go. Get a bigger hammer. We do have a saying around here. What is that? If it can't achieve a precision fit with a 10-pound sledge, then get something bigger? Then don't force it. That's it. We have all kinds of sayings. That's right. And actually, you can get some of the famous EVtv sayings at the store. Our what are they? The 11 sayings that we have. A poster. We have the Hewlett Packard one from the garage, and then we've got our own. So you can know the sayings that we say around here. At least the ones that are suitable for framing. And then I've got this connection here. Got a cool connector to go in here.
Thought we had it all out. I guess not. Huh?
This little baby's nice. And then, yeah, let me throw the top on. There are at least 100 little nuts that go with that, but we'll give you the idea here. And everything makes a nice seal. So there you have it. That is what is going into the green thing. And we've got, what, 246.2 pounds of motor, inverter, cables, clutch, pressure plate, flywheel, adapter. We've got most of it right there. It's going to be hanging off our transmission, which is on its way from Rancho Performance.
Woohoo!
So I think you get the idea. That's the UQM setup for the green thing at EVtv.
So kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool. It's compact, but it all fits. It's nice. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, what was it, 200 and some pounds in the back?
246 pounds
yeah,
altogether.
But that's not bad.
The motor surprised me. It was up close to 190 pounds,
yeah,
like a Siemens. But that included the adapter plate, the coupler,
yeah,
the flywheel,
17-pound
the pressure
flywheel,
plate, the clutch,
yes,
the whole thing.
Yeah, nuts and bolts, all the stuff.
And then, what, 61 pounds for the inverter.
For the inverter, yeah.
Making 246 total.
Yeah.
And that went in. We found we could easily replace the barbs for the cooling.
Yes, yes.
With, let me see if I get this right, an AN8 O-ring.
Yes.
On the motor and an AN10 O-ring on the
inverter.
On the inverter.
Yeah.
The Army Navy flare AN is what we use, kind of after the fashion of the racing community.
Yes.
And custom cars.
Yes.
And we get these nice anodized aluminum things. I'm probably not going to include them with the package because some guys might want the bar.
Right, they might want to use the hose barbs.
But
yeah,
as an option, we'll probably offer a kit for the UQM that is, they have, in addition to the flare, a flat side with an O-ring, but that thread is important. And I was surprised to learn that UQM had used AN threads on the instead of NPT.
Instead of NPTs, yeah.
Like we have these fittings for the DMOC 645 and the Siemens motor, but those are NPT threads.
They are. They're NPT threads.
And so we have an NPT to AN flare adapter. These are actually AN threads.
Yes, they are.
And so it turns out the motor takes an AN8 O-ring, a flat side with an O-ring that screws down in there, and then to A&8 flare fitting, and the controller takes an AN10. I was surprised they're different.
Yeah, I know.
And, so we'll offer a set of like 4 of those, 2 AN10s
a little kit
and
if they
2
want to adapt them.
AN8s.
Sure.
If they want that for the, these fittings are 10 or 12 bucks a piece. They are kind of pricey, but they're, you know, anodized aluminum, black things. They're, you know, and you just don't leak with them. So everything we do with fluids here is AN. Except our pump. We got to do this little adapter to get to AN on that Petersburg pump. I wish I could just screw those in like on the Lang.
I know, on the Lang we just screw them in. Yeah.
But so that's what's going on with that, and that's our. Now there have been some further developments. Didn't you get the transmission in?
We got the transmission in this week from Rancho,
and they left out part of it.
They did. They forgot to send back the little. It would be the rear trans mount. They found it and shipped it out.
Okay.
Yeah, they.
So we send them a transmission with this thing on it. They take it off, rebuild the transmission, paint it up nice.
They really did.
Send it back.
Yep.
A couple of shafts. We're ready to go. And there's no.
The hanger for the rear
missing.
Yes.
And we called him, and the guy said, "Well, we usually send those back."
Except it's just, sorry. Did you check both boxes? Yeah. Let me check around the shop. We got a call back, said, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, we found it.
So no problem. So that's cool. What's going on with the Karmann Ghia?
We have been driving the Ghia quite a bit. We have got it where it's steering. It's
front end's aligned.
Front end's aligned.
Buzz is out of the butt.
The buzz is gone. It's driving. It's driving nice. So we're starting to put miles on it.
Show me. Don't tell me.
All right. All right. So we're here with the Karmann Ghia. We have a couple of different names for it. Jack calls it the gift that keeps on giving, and I call it the on again, off again project because it's on the rack again and off again. So we are off the rack right now. We just rolled it off the rack. We've been working on the brakes. We started to bleed the brakes Friday, actually, to see if we could go for a little cruise. And what did we break off? We've got a pedal here, and we might, if you watched the show last week, you may have seen that we talked about this. Suggest he's got half of a pedal assembly here. What do we got going?
Well, this is actually the assembly that holds the brake pedal here, and it also holds the clutch pedal. And it's got a pin right here that holds the plunger for the or the plunger rod for the plunger on the master cylinder. Well, Friday when we were attempting to bleed the brakes, we pushed on it, and it fell to the floor, and the pin decided to fall out, and everything just went to hell in a handbasket pretty quick. So we've replaced the entire pedal assembly. So we got a new clutch pedal and a new brake pedal and the mount and the whole shebang with it. So hopefully that one holds up a little better to.
Yeah, you know, we've kind of been plagued, and it's kind of difficult to tell anymore with Volkswagen parts, is that, you know, how aftermarket is German, because a lot of stuff says German. We went through this with the ball joints, but it was a German company stamped on their Germany, but the box has the country of origin, and I think it was like
made in
Turkey or something. Yeah, so you know, we're not sure. Is Brazilian spec or Mexican spec better or worse? Because we had some really tight ball joints. That was a reason that we had taken the front end apart, and we weren't really happy with the bleed quality and the pedal pressure with the brakes. So we also did that, and we did that by hand. We just haven't had good luck doing it any other way. We've tried 2 different types of vacuum bleeders, at least through this car. We had broken the little hand pump one, and Jess went down and got a good one that works off the compressor.
Yeah, one that works off the compressor, and ended up, I guess, either sucking air into the lines or just draining it completely out.
Yeah, we don't know. And
But it made it worse.
And there's another way to do that too, where you can actually pressure through the reservoir, and then you just open up the lines. And I think like that's how Volkswagen things do it.
Yeah.
But it's tough to get anything that'll fit on these little master cylinders anymore. So we bled them by hand. So we have a new pedal assembly in. We have the clutch adjusted because we needed to do that. We have the brakes bled up firm, and we got it off the rack. And I suppose at this point we can just stop talking about it and take it for a cruise and see what you think.
Yeah.
anybody came to EVCon, we do have seat belts in it now. Got some with the VW with the Wolfsburg crest and everything. We're kind of styling. Nice regen. Going down a little bumpy road here. We did wait for all the school buses to come down and the little children to go home before attempting this drive, and we'll just wait for some of the traffic to go by. But yeah, just coming out of the gate there, drove pretty good. We were we've got some nice acceleration. We're at 2,800 RPM, doing 30 miles an hour, 31 miles an hour, 32. And that's in second gear. So the Ghia's getting there, and I know you guys like to see Ghia and driving around. But like any project, it's a project. We had some vibration that we told you about in the rear of the vehicle. Ended up, if you didn't see the show last week, we had the bolts, the two top bolts to the adapter plate holding the motor on to the transmission. One of them was completely missing its nut and lock washer, and the other one was loose. So, sometimes when you're putting a vehicle together and you have a few people working on it, someone like me should have been in charge checking things like that to make sure that bolts were tightened down, that they were torqued, that they were in, and that was our vibration. So we got off fairly easy with the vibration, and it was kind of serious. But we have brakes now too, and you notice I have been stopping, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I was going to go by the house and get my my Bell helmet, but I'm feeling okay. So we had to actually buy a new pedal assembly, and it got here this morning. It's Tuesday, I guess. I can't even tell anymore. And I'm surrounded by gas cars, and I'm just hearing all kinds of stuff out there, but I'm assuming that it's the guy that came up on the right, and he's got some kind of clanking going on. It's not me. That makes me feel better. But anyway, so Jesse had to take the new pedal assembly and put our Bigfoot clutch assembly back on there and put that in, and then we had to bleed the brakes. We had fairly spongy brakes, and we had a few different people again operate the brake bleeder, including got Jesse a one that runs on the compressor, kind of pricey one, probably $100 one, and we just could not get the brakes to bleed. So we went ahead and did it the old-fashioned way, and did it by hand. So if you can hear me, there's the noise that isn't emanating from the Karmann Ghia. It's emanating from the dude's car next to me. So I'm feeling better. So let's take off from the stoplight. Here we go. 10, 20, 30, 35. That's the speed limit. 40 before I got the back off. So we're doing pretty good. It's cruising along nice. Notice I haven't had the shift. I'm still in second gear, doing 35, 36 at 3,200 RPM. We're just kind of cruising along. And it's fairly silent. I'm not hearing a lot in the way of weird noises, clanks, rear end stuff, transmission noises, road noises. Just the guy that pulls up next to me is the only thing. The Ghia's getting there. We also have a new tachometer that just came in from Speed Hut. I went ahead and mounted the spyglass from Curtis, their gauge, inside of what was the clock, actually, and fuel gauge. And you just can't see it. It's just too small. I'm going to see if I can find some kind of pod setup. I hate to drill a hole in the dash for that gauge. I'm trying not to. The dash is kind of clean. We've got our Blaupunkt stereo. That's another little project we need to do, is get me some tunes. It would kind of be rude of me to sit here and have you watch me and not be talking to you. I'm gonna just be listening to some music, but we'll get the Blaupunkt done. Also, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but that's the fan from our Vintage Air up in the front of the car, and I'm gonna leave it on low, as it actually feels nice to get some air going. So there we go again. Nice long light in Cape Girardeau. I do like Karmann Ghias though. We'll see if we get anybody. You know, in this one, I've done them in, done one in California look. Got it in the desert. It ended up that it was stock Ravenna green. One of the guys I worked with at the publishing company at that time said that'd be a cool color to paint a Karmann Ghia. Unbeknownst to any of us, the car actually was, if you look at 73, 74, Karmann Ghia, I think they used it in the Super Beetle maybe at that point, in a kind of a blacked out cowl look one. It had black wheels and no chrome on it. And I think Porsche used it in the 914 as well. Maybe for a couple of years. Ravenna green, it's a cool color. I did mine in a cowl look. Took all the chrome off it, lowered it, had 135 radials in the front and some 225s in the back, 2165 naturally aspirated with 48 Webers. Kind of old school cowl look. The way that I had built California cars before. Now the guys behind me are looking, I can see them in the rearview mirror saying Volkswagen, but I'm pretty sure they don't know what it is, but it's a Volkswagen. But that's been my normal experience. I've had a couple of restored cars since '65, the first year that they had the hard sunroof and a bug. I left that one kind of as is. It had the original paint and everything, and in fact, the woman I bought it from cried when I drove it away. But the steering is feeling pretty good too. We're going to go up to the highway here. That's where I'm headed. But I'm feeling comfortable that we have brakes. They're very, very solid, not spongy at all. And we have regen, but that wouldn't help it. You know, trying to slow down in space of 200 feet from 45 miles an hour to zero. But I've never had a vintage look car. Restored. That's not me. That's a Harley. But it's kind of interesting. Let's see. We've got people here with their blinkers. I think I'm going to let this person go and get in front of me. I'd much rather have them in front of me where I know where they are when they're looking confused. So we're going to put on our turn signal and head down the highway a little in a moment after we stop at another light. So you all have seen this car. We've got the white wall what are they, 165, I guess, the Cokers, which would have been a stock VW tire size. Yeah, the wheels are painted black with the stock VW chromies on it. Stock height has the chrome. We kind of left everything as is, for lack of a better term, and put the vintage racks back on it that came with the car. They're kind of funky, but not. You know, you see a lot of cars with the vintage racks, especially in California. Trying to find maybe a set of plaid luggage and a Coca-Cola cooler maybe, and strap on the top, maybe take the car shows, maybe the picnics. But we still have the AC to do. The heat will be next, actually, because we're in getting toward the end of September. It's actually really nice out. Let's see what the temperature here is in Cape Girardeau right now. They're saying 81, no, 75. That's more like it. Yeah, maybe it was 81 at some point, but it's not 81 now. 75. But it's feeling really good. A little breeze is coming up. Got our vents here. And just the fan from the vintage air is working really, really nice. So we'll get our hot start going, and our pump is in, our tank is in. We have 2 more vents to put right here in the front in the footwell, so that we can get some hot air on our feet, and I think that'll be. I think we've got a cunning way to do that. Let's go ahead and shift. Looks like the clutch is working, and we're doing 2,900, 3,000 RPM at 60, and we just dropped it down 60 miles an hour. Lost my visor. You know, we had some steering issues too. It was tight. We had it was loose actually when we first got the car. You know, we rebuilt the front end like we do with all the car, the brakes, the bearings, the rotors, the rear, the drums, the shoes, seals, all that kind of stuff. Even brake lines, master cylinder. Got it all together, and it really didn't want to turn. So took it down to the alignment shop, and he knows quite a lot about ball joint front ends, and he told me that the ball joints were too tight. We shouldn't get aftermarket ball joints. And there we go. There's a beep for a Ghia. They didn't even know that it was electric. Downshifted in the third, looking good. But I said the ball joints were too stiff. So, and he said don't use aftermarket ball joints. And I don't know. I had never had really bad experience with them. So we went ahead and pulled the front end apart, put 4 new ball joints, and I'll be darned. The top ball joints are still a little tight, but the car tracks pretty good. I'm not feeling that it's wandering a lot. It's not centering precisely, but I'm going to let the ball joints work in a little bit before I get a little iffy about that. I did do a couple of weekends ago, but didn't document it at all. A little range testing. You know, we know that the car is probably in the 60 mile, maybe 70 mile range. I did 35, maybe close to 40. I know I did 35 before I had reset the trip meter. So we'll be able to go out and do that now. But I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the car. Let's see if we can hit second there. Shifted nice in second gear. And I've just got a gas-powered car in front of me, a Hyundai Santa Fe that just, actually I think I may have hit. Yeah, I hit fourth. It can't take off very fast, but that's okay. Some days are better than others. That's a fun car. It gets a lot of looks. It's, you know, the type of car that we like to do at EVtv. I'm just checking my time here. I don't want to bore you guys too much. Something cool, something unusual. You know, the Thing gets a lot of looks. The Spider, the Speedster, obviously, you know, the Cobra. You know, drive around the Escalade. We don't, you know, we're not looking to attract attention per se. With a 2008 Escalade, because that's not the type of car it is, but we needed to demonstrate that we could do that. But the Ghia is a different story. Oops. Here, let's pull it into gear. There we go. You know, that's a different story. I mean, it's just unusual. People don't know what it is, and again, that's the type of car we like to do at EVtv, is turn heads with the car and then get to talk to people about the power plant, and then they're just amazed. You know, I think I probably told you on the show when we were at car shows with any of our vehicles, and we were. It's something I need to put some weather stripping cement. And we just did a car show the previous weekend. Our River City Rodders, their show. We couldn't believe we had 6 of our cars down there, I think. Brought the Metropolitan down there, but it is it's still with an ICE engine, but people like to look at it. It's nostalgic for some people that had them. People didn't know what it was. But we had the Spider, the Speedster, and the Ghia down there, the Thing, and the Tesla. And there were 225, 250 cars there, and we could not leave our display area. It's just amazing. And then when people find out that the cars are electric, and again, excuse me, the questions have changed a lot. You know, before it was, they didn't even know what to ask, and then people started asking, well, you know, how far does it go, and how long does it take to charge? And then, you know, now we're getting, then it was, well, but it's how expensive is it? And now we're getting a lot of people that are saying, well, you know, I've got a whatever car, I've got a Miata, or I've got this, or I've got that, and I'm either thinking of putting the electric now in it or a V8. So I don't mind losing every now and then to a guy that wants to put a V8 in his Mazda or his little truck. I'm okay with that, but it's changed. Their response now is not that it's that different. It's just a choice of powertrain. You know, it's almost like, well, do I want to put on? Of course, the person in front of me has their head down, and I don't want to be. I wonder what they're doing at the light. What do you think happens? What are people in front of you doing when the light's green, their car's not moving, and their head's down? Either there's something really interesting in their lap, or they're playing with their cell phone. So be aware of that. I know who you are, and it's just irritating to the point where it's irritating. I'm gonna go take a cruise through downtown, but I can't make the shot through Sprague because they are putting some, I guess, huge water pipes or something on the street, so we won't be able to go all the way down Main. But I think we'll take just a putt through downtown, go across Spanish and then Main, and then head back to the shop. Yeah, we have blinkers. I guess I should use them. I shouldn't complain so much about people with cell phones. I don't use the blinker. Well, we were doing 70 miles an hour on the freeway. I'm feeling like the front end is kind of tight. It does wander around a little bit. That's going to make me really mad. I guess I'm going to have to buy two new visors. But I'm pleased. I'm pleased with the car, and we're not done, as we just have been discussing. The heat needs to go in, the AC. I need a stereo, man. I've got a Blaupunkt, what is it, Toronto, I think, which is, a DIN chassis. That little squeak we'll have to fix too. DIN chassis fits right in the standard hole from VW. But I don't know. I need maybe some tips on a stereo. I've got a battery box back where my huge, twin 12-inch subwoofer box would be. So any suggestions would be appreciated, as far as maybe some speakers and some speaker placement. Oh, there we go. I've been out 20 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun, you know what I mean? There we go. Got that off, and I guess I'm doing the same thing. So I'm looking at my lap, but I do have something interesting to look at in my lap, and it isn't always my cell phone. So there you go. All right, so just cruise down Espanol Street. Now we'll go down Broadway, go up Main, and head back to the shop. We're up on a little tiny hill here, and the river is kind of high. There's must be some snow melting stuff up in Minnesota and things here to feed the Mississippi River. It's a beautiful day though. But that is the that's the Ghia. It was funny too, because we adjusted the clutch because we had the pedal assembly out, and Jesse had adjusted the little wing nut that goes up to the actuating lever on the transmission. He's pulling it up real nice, and the pedals were sounding, feeling pretty good. And that's nice to see that girl's finally got a boyfriend. And so said he was at the end of the threads. Same thing with the emergency brake cables. We're seemingly up to the end of the threads on the cables. So I have 3 cables that are all too long, and they're stock Karmann Ghia cables. Now that would seem to maybe indicate to me, I don't know why or how, that the car may be a little short. We know we had some pan issues with this car, like they had to completely redo the pan. I just wonder if we have a car that may be a little bit short. Maybe not only do we have a flat bug, which was the name of the personalized license plates for my Karmann Ghia, flat bug, smashed, but this one may be actually short Ghia. I'm not quite sure what we have, except an irritating sun visor. So I'm sure you guys are taking notes. Don't forget to email me and remind me that I need to fix that visor. So I don't know. I'm going to look at some of these things, but it's too coincident that all 3 cables are short. Our local constabulary is taking their position in the Knights of Columbus parking lot, keeping us all safe from ourselves, and looking to generate some revenue for the city of Cape Girardeau. Like I said, its front end may still be a little bit tight. I'm having a little bit of centering when I come back from the turn. Here we'll go around the traffic circle. I don't think this is going to be one of our autocross participants. It drives interesting. Got a big steering wheel too. We'll see if I might be able to do something. But anyway, thanks for riding along. I'm back at the shop. I'm hoping that I didn't bore you too much, and if I did, oh well. Brian the Brain Noto, signing off. What'd you call that? 28 minutes of sheer terror.
Man, are you the drive king? Has he got the drive pattern going or what? TV star.
I couldn't shut myself up.
You're talking the talk, walking the walk. It looked like a nice drive.
Yeah, well, it was a very nice drive. Nice day, nice drive, all around Cape. Yep.
Let's sum up a little bit. Now, this car is going to continue. We've got it driving, so Brian has his EV grin.
Yes.
There is work remaining.
Yes.
We're actually to the point of starting the build.
Yes, exactly. Now we got an electric vehicle. We can.
The task that I presented to Mr. Noto, and of course awarded him the pure joy of getting to do the whole thing.
That's right.
Is to make me an all-weather small car. All our smaller cars are convertibles.
Yes.
And we have 3 months of great autumn weather for those, and 3 months of great spring weather. Man, when it's 104 degrees out in July, I don't drive those a lot.
No, it's a convertible.
And in February, when it's drizzling crap at 18 degrees, I don't drive a lot in it either.
No. We did once. We were testing the very first car we built, the original Speedster. Man.
Yes, we did. We got out and drove it in February.
We did in February.
We're test driving this thing in February.
With heat on our points,
Yeah.
a little bit of heat on our elbows.
A little bit of heat blowing on our elbows. Well, those days are gone.
I know, that was brutal.
I don't even know that bad now.
That's right. We'll wait.
I will wait until it's, we've learned patience here.
That's right.
But we're at the point of really beginning the interesting work on this build. So far, it's been recovering from some of my mistakes in purchasing and getting the car up to being a car, and then getting it where it would drive electric. And what we need to do, or what has always been the plan of the build, is how do you put air conditioning and heating, in other words, modern environmentals, in a classic car that never did have them to begin with. The Karmann Ghia, in fact, most Volkswagens were not noted for their heat and air conditioning ability.
No, even if they had it.
The few that had air conditioning and heat didn't have any that I could
it
use.
didn't really matter much.
And so the concept here is, can Brian get enough heat in there where Jack would drive it in February, or enough air conditioning where he'd drive it in July? And Brian's going to be doing all the driving until he gets to that point.
Well, if I just don't heat and air condition, I can just drive it all the time.
You can just drive it all the time anyway.
Just like it's mine.
It's just like it's yours. You built the damn thing.
I know.
And so that's, I think, a very good thing. Now, I'm told that you did do some basic range testing.
Yes.
What did we find here?
What we got is I actually did that over the last 2 days here, and we have 100 amp hour batteries. So I took and I ended up doing a 50.1 mile loop.
That's a pretty good loop.
and used basically 82% or 81.8 amp hours out of our pack.
By my calculations, that comes out to 1.63 amp hours per mile, and that's a very familiar figure because that's about what we get in the Speedster.
Yes.
It's fairly similar to what we get in the Spider, which has a lower battery voltage.
Yes.
And so about 1.6 amp hours per mile comes up a lot around here. 154 volt nominal pack, in this case 48 volts, and we calculate that at the 3.2 volt, which would be your average in going from fully charged to discharged. And we call that the nominal voltage. It's really an average across a discharge cycle. And if we multiply that 154 times 100 amp hours in our batteries, we get a 15,400 watt hour pack. And it also comes out that the 1.63 amp hours per mile is almost exactly 250 watt hours per mile.
Per mile, yeah.
And that is a very familiar figure.
It is. That comes up a lot.
That's where our very first car came in.
Yes.
In general driving, we weighed the Karmann Ghia at EVCon.
We did.
2014, and it came in at 2,285 pounds.
It did.
And that fits pretty closely. That would be about 231 hours per mile, and your first drive test was at 250.
Yes.
That's close enough for government
Yeah,
work.
that's close.
That smells like, looks like, sounds like 61 mile, 100% discharge range. And with the batteries actually coming in at 115, 117 amp hours in that CA line, I'm guessing we could figure 60 miles is safe.
That's
range.
probably a safe.
We targeted this car at 60-mile range from the beginning.
We did.
Max range.
Yes.
And have achieved it pretty well. Let's talk about some of the costs along the way. I just want to give you an idea of what we spent on this car so far, and so you can see what you'd be talking about in doing a 1974 classic car, small car, 2,400 pounds, 2,300 completed.
Yes.
Which I don't think is any higher than we started.
I don't remember.
I think it was about 2,200
when
when we started. I think we picked up maybe 85 pounds. So that's actually a pretty good job. We originally bought this POS off eBay at $9,550 and spent $1,000 to ship it here for a base car cost of $10,550. We have some expenses we don't count as EV conversion. They're restoration costs, I call them, to get the car to be a car. And one of the big ones, the rust amelioration really didn't cost anything but labor.
It was labor,
labor and paint, so I don't even have any idea. But we did a lot of running gear replacement. $3,241 in parts for running gear. What do I call running gear? Hubs, brakes,
brake lines, seals, bearings, tie
rods,
steering box, master cylinder.
Stuff that lets it roll. What all did you actually replace there?
All of that.
All of it?
Yeah.
Basically.
Calipers couldn't be rebuilt.
You didn't do, for example, drums. No,
we didn't have to. We didn't have, but on this Karmann Ghia, drums weren't that big of a deal. I mean, it wouldn't be that much more expensive if we did. You know, not like on the Thing.
So does it have discs in front?
Discs in the front. Now, we did replace The rotors and the calipers too. The
Rotors
calipers,
and calipers.
couldn't be repaired.
Okay, so $3,241 in running gear. The next one is kind of iffy, $3,179 for a transmission. You must have got the deluxe model. What was my Thing transmission?
$1,130.
$1,100.
Yeah.
Brian apparently got us a racing transmission for this car. Who knew? He didn't mention it to me. But I think you thought that AC76 was going to make you a race car.
I think that's what we were doing. Was
No, that's what you were doing.
okay. No.
So we sometimes do replace the transmission anyway to get a different gear ratio, usually at a $1,100 or $1,200 expense.
Yeah,
this
to
was
get the 344.
$3,179, but as I recall, this was a leaking mess.
Yeah, it was a mess of the transmission.
So it had to be replaced anyway.
Yeah, it did.
You can get out of that by shopping more carefully up at the 9550 level.
Yeah, yes.
One that's not got a run out thing.
That's right.
We put a new speed hut speedometer, tachometer was $551. $200 for a Blaupunkt radio stereo system.
Yeah, the one with the Bluetooth and everything. Yeah, and that's not bad. That's pretty cheap.
Flywheel balance was $90. Clutch assembly was $209, and the flywheel was $82. And that brings us to a essentially restored vehicle at $18,102. When I look through most of our vehicles, we have a $14,000 gig going. Sometimes we'll buy the car less expensively, but by the time we get all that in, it's $14,000.
About 14. Yeah, they are about 14 grand. Yeah.
Oddly, if we buy them for more than that, but it doesn't go back the other way.
No, no.
But your paint, which we didn't really have to paint this one,
didn't
it
really
looks good enough.
It's good enough, absolutely.
It could use a paint job, but good tires.
Interior was good.
Interior was pretty nice. Yeah. We haven't had to do much of that, but we're still at $18,000 for a roller. Mm-hmm. And we get into our components, and those came in to do the conversion at $19,342. That's with a pretty short pack, 48 CA100s.
Yes.
Like with one of our big AC systems that does high voltage, that would have to be 100 of them. And at one of our cars where we're shooting for 120 mile range, you would use the 180s,
yeah.
Or two strings of 100s. So a fairly light pack at $6,672 list. An AC76 motor kit at $5,750. A Bruce charger, a Rebirth VW adapter. Well, you have miscalculated that, buddy. You used a Rebirth adapter?
No, I didn't. That's right. Not Rebirth.
That was a Thunderstruck.
It was a Thunderstruck. Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
$899.
I put the wrong thing down there. Yeah, the price is correct.
That's just a B-face to a VW. It's not a Siemens adapter.
That was the multi-part one, yep.
Bruce Charger at $1995. Let's see, a Chinook 800-watt DC to DC converter, $395. JLD 404 at $175. Then we get into a Gilmore AC condenser. This is kind of important, $399. Yep. Vintage Air Gen 2 compact evaporator, $498. That's the thing that goes in there with the blower. That's really the center of our
it is
environmentals thing. A Motec Electric. And you'll learn more about this, 144-volt AC compressor and controller. This is an electric compressor for the air conditioning system at $950. A Hot Start 5-kilowatt heater, $315. We had to fab some battery boxes, of course. We've only got one battery box.
One battery box.
$250. The Dave Kurzel's J1772 inlet at $249, and a EVtv cooling kit, which is back to the AN fittings and hoses
Right.
and stuff at $795, totaling $19,342. And we have essentially all the components we need for the car. You'll run into bit pieces, you know, bolts, nuts, wires.
Yes, maybe some labor, some hoses for the AC
For
system
your,
or something. Yeah.
AC system and an AC charge.
Yeah. Right.
Take it down and get it charged
Yeah.
when we get it together. Probably have them make up those.
That's something. We don't have the high pressure lines, especially.
That's
yeah.
going to be $400.
Yeah.
And so we're at $37,444 total, and I would say you're going to be at $37,800 or $900.
Yeah.
So $38,000 very nearly to get there, and that's the cost of a Chevy Volt. You can get a Leaf for less, you know.
Yeah.
So why are we doing this? Well, it's a '74 Karmann Ghia.
Yeah, I mean, when we went on the drive, you saw the people. I said the guy behind me, I could read his lips saying Volkswagen, but like, what's that? People honking at me, going down the road, thumbs up, you know.
I can't, I used to have this in parked situations. I'm getting it in the thing going down the road. They're just cool cars. You've restored a piece of history. And it's not a purist thing to get it back to as it left the factory floor. No, you brought this car new life as a new device
Right.
with electric drive, a very modern situation. And in this case, have all the Bluetooth radio, and we don't really have navigation in it, but
Only have 60-mile range.
Electric car with 60-mile range. How lost can I
If we
get?
get lost, we've got to go to the home.
But yeah, the stereo with the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Use my phone tunes, and heat and air conditioning, and windshield wipers, and all the creature comforts. But in a 1974 Karmann Ghia, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. We were really doing these for $50,000.
Yes. Yeah. When we first started, these were $50,000 cars, cost.
And we're down under 40 now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big move. Yeah. Yeah. That's a big move.
So for $40,000, you can do this and have a car. Number one, Elon can't phone it and shut it down. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Right.
It's like Ed Clausen was saying, well, I got a Leaf and it works pretty good. He says, one thing is the range. I said, well, that's odd because you got a 24-kilowatt battery pack. Of course, they only let you use 19
Yeah, that's
of
right.
it.
They'll let you use a little bit. That's right.
That's right. I would have enough range if they just let me use the
Or
battery.
use a little more of the battery pack. Yep.
It's nice to buy a car from somebody in which they would let you use it.
How kind.
No, you know how it works. You're familiar with it.
Right.
You can repair it. It's a classic head turner, and you can keep it for years. I think it's a neat thing to do. It's one of the most personally satisfying things I've ever done, and I hear that from a lot of guys.
Yeah, a
who've
lot of the
done it.
guys.
And is it an expense? Yes, it is. You can buy a Volt for what you're talking about here. I don't have a problem with you buying a Volt,
No,
but this is the fun part.
this is fun. Yeah.
The Volt just sort of drives you around. I think there's some issues on fixing those Volts that are going to come up that may be worse than the Tesla and the Leaf.
Jeez.
It's a very complicated car. Sure, you could buy a $5,000 one, do a little bit more work, on this
Sure.
end. I mean, you can't spend more on the running gear than we did.
No, not at all.
There's not any way.
No.
You can't spend more on a transmission for it, I'm sure.
Sorry, dude.
And so you're talking about a paint job could be in here.
Yeah, you might have a paint job, sure.
And that would be typically $3,000 or $3,500.
Yeah, be about in the same ballpark.
But those are restoration costs you're going to face restoring any of those old cars. The electronic part looks like $19,342. What do I tell people when they call? 18 to 20,
Right.
depending.
That's what we
on
tell
you
people.
do.
Absolutely.
And it's we don't miss by much.
No, those are real world costs.
We don't have to BS you. I want to include with the JevQ a little USB stick
Okay.
that contains Arduino 1.54 because there's some issues with 1.55 and 1.56 compilers.
Okay.
And you have to have some libraries that we've done to compile it, and so it gets to be just a little icky.
Okay.
Tracking down all this stuff.
Give them the
so
proper
I want to
stuff.
put all of it on a little key-shaped, USB, and put it in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they can go get the latest software, but they already have the libraries and the compiler and the version that came with it if they ever need to go back to one.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
And I'm just going to put it on a little car key or bottle opener type USB thing. And I got online and actually found a guy that would print our name on them
Oh.
and ordered 50 of them.
Okay.
They were like $11 a piece. And so I got the order, and the guy contacted me, and he just wanted to make sure my experience was good. And I said, well, the one thing is going through all this, I don't need it to be much, but I need a couple gigabytes on this. What is the capacity of this USB that I bought? And I had uploaded logo art and everything, and they went through the whole process and quoted me, and I accepted it and paid for it. I said, I never did see anything on there about the how many gigabytes
The
this
capacity
thing
of
was.
the thing.
He says, oh, we can get them up to 16 gigabytes. I can get you a 16 gigabyte version for another $2 each.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I said, that's great, but I mean, I may not need that. How many gigabytes
How
do
many
I have
gigabytes
now?
do I have? That's right.
What did I buy?
How big
I've
is
already
my
paid
stick?
for it. I'd just like to know what I got.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah.
Well, we can get you anything you want. That's interesting, but let's start with what I've already paid for. We're at $11.20 a piece. What is the capacity of it? I looked today, we have exchanged 13 emails, and this mother will not tell me what the capacity is of something he's already sold me.
Oh, jeez.
And I finally told him, look, just cancel the sale.
Yeah, right. You don't know what you have. Yeah.
You're clearly incompetent to even produce these.
That's right. Get off the internet.
I have to go find somebody that can actually make them show up here. And he's like, oh, no, I'm very good at it. I said, then why, in an email exchange of 13 separate electronic mail messages, do I not know what the capacity of this USB drive is? So he finally, 14th message, sends me a message that says 256 MB lowercase, and that's it.
And that's it.
It doesn't, nothing further.
Oh, jeez.
I said, oh, that's interesting. They still make those.
I know. Those,
I would have thought they would not be available.
Those should be
which
like-
he hasn't replied to, because the truth is, I'm sure he does not have access to a 256 megabyte. Where would you get them?
yeah, exactly.
Nobody makes
Who
them
would
anymore.
have them? That's right.
Who would have them?
That's right.
But that's what it was
Yeah.
they sell you one at 256 and then upsell you to whatever size you want.
Yeah.
Which would work great, except I never could get from it. He would not be upfront about what
Tell
I
you what.
was actually buying.
Yeah.
If he just said, this is the price for 256 megabytes, it should have been my question. Well, I need a bigger one. What would it be
Yeah,
for
how much?
2 gig?
Yeah, how much
Which
would 2 gig be?
2 gig would be more than I need, but 1 gig would be what I would use. But the guy should have some storage, to use anyway.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of a gift. I'm trying to give him something. So 2 gigs, maybe 4 gigs. What's the difference in price?
That's nothing.
But It's only $2 to go to 16 gigs.
Yeah, right.
This guy is beating me up for 14 email messages trying to work me for another $2.
For another couple bucks.
And I'm like, when you are selling your office furniture and the bankruptcy court is satisfied, remember this day. What are you doing? I never said no to the $2. I never could get you to tell me what it was I was starting with.
That's right. Where did I begin?
So we don't do that shit.
No, we don't do that.
$19,342.
That's real world, man. We just did it.
We just did it, and we'll do it again.
Absolutely.
And some of them are more expensive, and some of them are less. I guarantee I didn't do any Escalade for $19,342, and. John Deere lawnmower didn't quite cost that much.
That's right. It wouldn't be quite that much.
Or the Vantage van. So there's a range of things you can do, but that's where we're at on the Karmann Ghia right now. And I thought it would be nice to sum it up and have Brian do a little drive, talk a little bit about it. I'd like you to go out and do what we do often on these cars is our 50, 60, 70 loop. Mm-hmm. Go do a 23-mile round trip, going two ways on the same distance on the same highway.
On the highway, yeah.
And at 50 miles an hour, and checking the amp hours consumed, and so watt hours per mile, and then repeat that for 60 miles and for 70 miles, holding it as close as you can, you know, and in traffic, and that gives us kind of a good baseline.
Yep.
To be able to make stuff up and talk it into the camera. Sometimes in the background you have to actually test some things and find out how things work.
Yep, exactly.
And ever so much so, but so again today.
Yes.
We did Anna, we did Damien.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. Speaking of the green thing and heat.
Oh, that's right. We
My
have
buddy
a little
Jeff
report.
Southern
Yes.
is doing a little machine work for the olive green thing, and that's where we're getting our heat this time, because
Yes.
he did a lot better job of it than I did on the yellow one. Bring it home, Jeffrey.
All right.
Well, I'm here in the shop. I'm working on Jack's heater system for his VW Thing. I've been cutting out some bar stock. This will be the material. It's just a 3" by 1.5" that'll be used for the plenum up under the dash that can divert the heat to the defroster right down to your feet or lap, however he wants to do it. These are going to be some material stock used to make the little adapters for the tubing. What I'm doing now is I'm just putting them in the vise and actually using the milling machine to true them up. Works better if you get your stock square to start with before you start machining it. So that's the simple process I'm at the moment. So here we are machining out some of the parts. These are the adapters that adapt the round tube to the plenums. So this is the first one of them I'm cutting out. The machine's just going through its paces, cutting out the parts. I'll let you know what they look like when they get done. When it's done, it's going to look something like this. This is the part that it's cutting out. So it's going to cut this hole out in the center and cut this ring around the edge. Okay, I'm set up to cut out the last part for the tubes. I thought you guys might like to see a time-lapse video of the cutout. Hello. Thought I'd let you know what I've been working on for Jack here. Been busy with the milling machine, milling out some parts, and this is one of the parts. This is the plenum that'll go up under the dash. The whole purpose of this plenum is to bring some air down from the trunk compartment of the thing so that you can get some air from the heat exchanger, which will be one of the EVtv 300 volt or 280 volt heat exchangers. These little components here are just to adapt this 2.5 inch tube to work with a thinner 1.5 inch unit. This is one that'll go up under the dash. So the unit will be in here like this. This one will go in here. So what will happen is there'll be a baffle valve that moves this up under the dash. So the heat will come in down through here and go right back up into the dash. This tube will be used to put the heat either at your feet or at your lap. What I found with my unit is I've been using this as my little heat tube. So it comes out of the front of here, and this is right at your lap level. So this blows out heat this way and this way right into the passenger and driver's lap. And I actually found that produces the best heating in the car. The thing doesn't have any insulation in the door, so you're just exposed to the elements more or less through a thin piece of sheet metal. So having the air come flow across you definitely seems to heat the car up better. So I'm going to have to make some type of vent like this to go up under the dash in my car, and this is kind of a little prototype I've got. Has the round tube adapter here, and it'll just blow air out over to this side and this side. So this will just sit up under the dash. Made it out of cardboard, of course, just to try to get my measurements in place. And I'll probably machine it out of a piece of aluminum or maybe just form it out of sheet metal. I haven't decided yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. And of course, no good redneck project would be complete without using a coat hanger. I do need a axle to pivot the two baffles on the heat exchange box. So I'm going to use a coat hanger. That's what I used in my car. It works perfect. Also, the coat hanger has a little bit of varnish on it to keep the coat hanger from rusting. And it's really nice because when it heats up, this varnish acts like a glue. So it kind of helps hold the baffles and keep them from turning once you heat it up a couple of times. So redneck project will get a coat hanger axle for the baffles. Also, I'm going to use another technique. Instead of welding these parts together like I did in my car, I'm going to use a metal epoxy. The reason I'm doing this is to show you that you don't have to use a welder every time you want to attach two pieces of metal together. So in the next video, you're going to see some of me do the sheet metal work. I've done most of the machining work for the parts now. So in the next video, what you're going to see is doing the sheet metal work, and then how to attach all these pieces without using a welder.
Well, there you go.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Polished billet aluminum with coat hanger axles.
God, we have to love the coat hanger. Hey, they're varnished, you know.
Redneck EV.
Redneck EVtv.
And so that's from Kennesaw, Georgia. Jeff Southern. Now he's getting to be kind of an EV renaissance man. He built a thing, and he using entirely different components and so forth than I did. He bought a Tesla Model S, and his wife occasionally lets him drive it. He is going to do and is in possession of our Aristocrat boat.
He is, our wooden boat, yes.
And we're going to put a UQM Powerphase 100 in that and see if we can get it to squirt water and make us go. And he has a couple of guys down there that are supposed to stop by and bring beer and help. And then he stopped and did a heater for me because I so admired the one he did in his thing. And we'll put it in the green thing. Why do I bother? The green one has a hard top.
Yeah, it's
a little better plastic window.
Yes,
a little better grade of plastic windows.
Yeah, yes, a little better. They might seal a little.
I got the deluxe plastic windows.
That's right, the deluxe winders.
Deluxe plastic windows. this one.
Yeah.
And a hard top, so it might hold in a little heat. Where the flapping canvas of the convertible yellow one is just
won't do it.
Bother.
Yeah.
I fooled around with a heater and it just.
It's a summer car, fall.
It's a summer car.
Yeah, it's fall and spring summer car.
And so, but the green one, it'd be nice to have a heater, and he's got one where you can flip a lever and move it from defrost to down. And the trick is, and what I've found is all this duct work works fine as long as it's that long.
Yeah, right.
When it's 6 feet long, there's nothing comes out
Yeah,
the other end.
yeah, that the yellow thing, we found that out. At the end of the, it's like
Nothing
nothing,
comes out the other
nothing
end.
coming out. No turbonic experience
Yeah.
of hot air. No.
And so he has his. Here you're sitting. His is sitting about right here
Yeah.
in the front compartment,
yeah.
blowing down under the dash into your lap or on the windshield.
On the wind, yeah.
And you have a little thing you can pull the butterfly valve to switch it in a mix, actually,
Yeah.
between defrost and lap heat. And with the hard top and the deluxe plastic windows,
Deluxe plastic windows.
I think
We'll throw 'em in.
I can get a little bit of heat in there and
Yeah.
it'll be okay. So that's, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely. That's going to be great.
We got 3 pretty good reports this week. I think this is
did.
going to be a good show.
Yeah,
Frank.
I do too.
Let's wrap it up. Is there anything we need to announce?
No, that's really it for right now.
We've had a good time this week.
We did.
I have been playing with JevQs. We're starting to ship them out.
Yes.
I've got a couple of odd software issues, but I've got most of them stamped out. Colin and I have been working on it. It's a nice, big, much improved web interface. Those of you with the JevQs are going to want to update your software. And and there's people out there driving it all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of it is, I guess, the improvements are mostly configuration interface. But there's some features. You have a reverse input now, a reverse light
Reverse
output,
light, yes.
a brake, an enable input, and a brake output, brake light output for when you go into regen and lights the brake light. And so we've had a couple of boating people and so forth really wanting a reverse mode.
Yeah.
Having a
reverse transmission, yeah.
And so that's worked out pretty well. And so I've found actually some places in China that actually produce some of these boards.
I know, that's nice.
That I'm a little bit happier with.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to do some more things. We have 50 of the dual channel in. We're going to get another 50 of Paulo's version of that.
Okay.
Which features basically different connectors. It's got a DB9 connector, and we're going to add a DB9 to OBD2 cable to that one.
Sure.
But it has a micro SD card on it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's
You
up
can
to
log
like
stuff.
128 gigabytes now.
Yeah.
And so we'll be able to log data.
Too bad you couldn't use the 256 kilobyte or megabyte stick on your thumb drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Or you could log like for a couple of seconds.
I mean, some people are straining at the gnats and letting the whole big picture go to hell. This guy alienated me completely over nothing that I care about.
No. No, and look, you can do an SD card in your 128 gig SD card, you know what I mean? Man,
Yep.
that's going to be a cool feature.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll be able. You would actually be able to use this board to monitor even some of the DMOC things or the UQM things, not using the JevQ, just log drive data for a year. I mean, massive amounts of data.
Yeah. Yeah, how cool.
And we'll, of course, use it to capture CAN logs from cars like the Leaf and the Smart ED and the Lear Charger and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Be great. It's a great feature.
And it should be a lot of fun. So that device, and we're actually going to sell it with the cable and with an Arduino DUI. I'm having my own Arduino DUI made in China.
Okay.
But we're going to replace those two little slimy USB ports that always
USB
tear off
Yeah.
with the big printer type.
Oh, okay.
And the barrel power jack, which I never use, with a couple of screw terminals.
That you can put some wires on, yeah. Okay.
So we're going to make that package include the Arduino DUI and the board, the shield, with the micro SD card slot, and the OBD2 cable for $149.
Oh man,
It's basically a can logging
it is.
package.
Yeah.
The whole shimoleon.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But the board's fully assembled, and you'll be able to hopefully join us in capturing data.
Yes, exactly.
This has already come up several times. We've got somebody's got a car and they're willing to capture data, but they've got nothing. To do
Nowhere to get it. Yeah.
I'll just be able to send one of these and plug it in.
Say log
grab
away.
it, send it back.
That's right. Log away, baby.
And so that's kind of the concept, but for data logging. I think we're in a war, guys, with Elon Musk and Tesla, but not limited to him. Smart ED, BMW, a bunch of them. It does ultimately need legislation, and I'm going to work on that to some degree. If you know anybody, you should too. They're basically trying to take your money and keep the car. And that's not the gig we signed up for on the OEM cars. And you should be able to repair it, alter it, customize it, tune it. It should be your car. If you want to treat it with white gloves during the warranty period, I understand. And I don't even fault the manufacturers for that.
No, that's.
But once
makes
that's
sense.
done, that car value shouldn't plunge to zero because nobody can work on it or get parts for it. That's crazy.
Right, right. Or they'd be so expensive
And,
that you wouldn't want to.
You know, we talk about all this stuff. I have little sympathy for the bottom feeders that just don't want to do anything. But ultimately, as this works out, I was a grown man before I ever had a new car. And I mean in my 30s probably. And there's certainly a place for used cars, and electric cars should have a used car future that is not completely unusable, unrepairable, and valueless.
Yeah, it would seem like they don't want anybody to have electric cars.
Well, it would kind of degrade the whole concept of buying an electric car.
Right.
That's
right.
where we're headed.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not sure this isn't another one of these little plots I also noticed that the electric car is making a little sway. We have a huge camel sneeze in the Mideast with this ISIS thing. We're actually bombing people. And we've got a war going on over there that we're in. Gasoline prices are down to $3.34 national average.
National, yeah. It's amazing.
Well, what happened? I thought in 2008 that this price at the pump is manipulated. It has nothing to do with the price of oil, and the price of oil is manipulated. It has nothing to do with production costs. And those are the forces we're seeking to take away some of their tool set by developing electric cars and adopting them and making it not matter.
Yeah.
But they're fighting back, and I do not believe Bob Letts came out this week and called Tesla a fringe car manufacturer, fringe model.
Oh, gosh.
They're not going to give it up easy. I've said this all along.
No.
And this is another, and Elon Musk has fallen in with him on this control issue. And what he does is take about a third of the value out of his car when he does it, in that as long as it's new and it's under warranty, we're all buddies. And as soon as it isn't, it's going to plunge and be worthless.
Yeah.
What's that about, Elon? Why do you want that? This is what I've been saying. All this stuff, they think it's in their interest. It is not. It's not going to work for them. It's not going to be good for them. It's not going to save them money. It's going to cost them money. It's going to cost them sales. Everybody gets the part about the batteries. I got a smart ED. It doesn't have a battery. It's an electric car. Hello. What part of this do they not get?
Yeah, what part of electric?
It's an electric car. You need a battery or long cord.
Yeah, very long cord, yeah.
You do know this. And so, but it's not going to work out for them. People are not stupid. Well,
Well,
you take your average intelligence, your average person, as George Carlin says. About half the people walking around, you understand, are stupider than that. It's immutable math.
it is.
That's what an average is.
That's right.
We'll see you all next week.
All right. See you then.